Chapter 1481. After that, Qin Wentian's gaze turned to the leader of the Nine Emperors' immortal state. Huang Jiutian, a prince of the Nine Emperors' immortal state, was at the peak stage of the immortal king realm. In addition, his combat prowess was extraordinary. Ordinary peak stage immortal kings weren't even worthy of a mention before him. Right now, for the sake of dealing with the saber-sword immortal king, Huang Jiutian, the strongest expert of the Nine Emperors' immortal state, has arrived here. Boom! A bright light flashed as a boundlessly dazzling radiance manifested behind Huang Jiutian. Emperor light gushed forth frenziedly as resplendent divine weapons shot out from the light screen behind him. The power of this attack was similar to Huang Shatian back then, but it was far stronger compared to Huang Shatian back then. Killing people of my empire, you should die. Huang Jiutian didn't say anything more, he only spoke a single sentence. You want to kill me but your skills are inferior. You should die. Qin Wentian's tone was tyrannical. Even when facing Huang Jiutian, he was still as domineering as ever. Many people turned their gazes over, feeling shocked in their hearts. This saber-sword immortal king was still the same as before, lawless and out of control. In his eyes, there was no such thing as respect. Even when facing Huang Jiutian, he still didn't lower his head. Boom! At this moment, the air trembled as an incomparably shocking aura gushed over. In the air, a group of experts arrived on a carriage, exuding the same aura of an emperor. This was especially so for the person in the lead, who sat on a dragon carriage. The dragon carriage was actually pulled by 8 flood dragons, and all of them were king-level greater demons. Just the 8 flood dragons pulling the dragon carriage were already incomparably terrifying. They were strong enough to dominate an entire region, yet they were willing to become slaves. From this, one could very well imagine what sort of status the person sitting on the chariot had. That Supreme Crown Prince character has arrived. Vile spawn, this Crown Prince has already ordered you to kneel and admit your mistakes twice. You actually dared to disobey this Crown Prince's orders. Now that you see this Crown Prince, why are you still not kneeling? The Supreme Crown Prince in the air spoke. His tone was calm, but his voice shook the heavens and earth, containing an unquestionable will. The words he spoke were the will of the immortal king, the will of the heavens. Qin Wenin inclined his head and glanced at him. He had heard of this Crown Prince character before. This was the Crown Prince of the Sanluo Immortal Empire, also known as the Yama King. He was extremely awe-inspiring and was a supreme demon-level character. Although he was sitting there, the Emperor, Fate behind him was incomparably majestic. His Emperor, Fate transformed into ferocious dragons. 2 princes have arrived. That king of the Sanluo Immortal Empire. This saber-sword immortal king is King Yi of the Immortal King, the king of the Immortal Emperor, the king the Nine Emperors Immortal. Many experts felt pity for Qin Wenin. In the past, although Qin Wenin was unexcelled in the world, everyone admired his strength. But now, when facing against these 2 princes, especially the Yama King, it was basically impossible for Qin Wenin to win. In the city of ancient emperors, the Crown Prince of the Yama King was publicly acknowledged to be one of the strongest characters. His combat prowess was unparalleled, no one could stand up against him. Once, there were several peak-stage immortal kings who dared to contend against him, yet they were all killed by him with a single strike. They weren't on the same level at all. In the central regions of the immortal realms, who didn't know how strong the Yama King was? Who the hell do you think you are? Speaking to this seat in such a manner. Don't you know how those people died? Qin Wenin inclined his head and stared at the Yama King as he coldly spoke. No matter how strong his opponent was, right now, his cultivation base was at the mid-stage of the Immortal King realm. There was no reason for him to show weakness. Just a peak-stage Immortal King, what was there for him to not challenge? The hearts of everyone trembled. What a saber-sword Immortal King, lawless and arrogant, simply having nothing in his eyes. The Yama King was a lofty character, yet he still dared to talk back. Not only did he want the Yama King to kneel, he even referred to himself as this seat, saying that he didn't know how those people died? How audacious! Haha, There's actually someone who dares to speak to this crown prince in such a manner. Back then, I said that if you didn't obey my command, I would cripple your cultivation and hand you over to my enemies. I'm a man of my words. Qingyao, this vile spawn dared to be disrespectful to you back then. Today, I will naturally seek justice for you. The Yama king stared at Su Qingyao as he calmly spoke. It was like his personality was like this, lofty, peering down at everyone in the world. I'll naturally handle my own matters. Su Qingyao spoke. Although the Yama king treated her very well, she wasn't used to his attitude towards others. It was like he was always like this, a lofty character. In the future, if she became Dao companions with him, would she have to act like this as well? Your parents once instructed me to take care of you. I'll naturally do my best. Now that there's someone who dares to treat you like this, how can I spare him? The Yama king spoke. Huang Jiutian, since you have a grudge with him, I'll let you fight him first. If you can't do it, this king will personally act. Just a mere saber-sword immortal king. How can I allow him to be so arrogant before me? I will naturally kill him. Although Huang Jiutian's strength was inferior to the Yama king, he was also an unparalleled character. How could he show weakness? His tone was filled with arrogance as the aura behind him grew even more violent. With a step out, he was about to act. Before this, those who wanted to kill this seat have already died in my hands. I truly want to see what qualifications a prince like you has to be so arrogant before this seat. Qin Wendian spoke with arrogance. Terrifying law runes circulated around him, and in an instant, his body was like an indestructible divine body, radiating an unexcelled might. How can those people you killed be compared to me, Huang Jiutian? Huang Jiutian stepped out. The wind and clouds changed as his law domain manifested. In an instant, this entire space was filled with a resplendent royal light. His astral soul transformed into a constellation, manifesting within his law domain. In this vast space, numerous gigantic emperors appeared, their might shaking the heavens and earth. Everyone in the world had to prostrate themselves before them. Saber-sword immortal king, do you know your crimes? Numerous voices shook the heavens and earth. Those human emperors spoke at the same time. Their voices were like the voice of the heavenly Tao. Boundless beams of light shot towards Qin Wenyin. 4 ordinary peak-stage immortal kings, they wouldn't even be able to withstand the destructive law light and would die for sure. Each and every one of the human emperors was like a sharp sword, and there was no end to them. Qin Wendian radiated a treasured light. His body was like a divine weapon, akin to a divine body. Resplendent beams of light shot towards Qin Wendian, yet they had no way to break through Qin Wentian's defense. Everyone once again witnessed how tyrannical the saber-sword immortal king's body was as they felt shock in their hearts. Your physique isn't bad. Huang Jiutian's expression was calm, there were no fluctuations at all. If the saber-sword immortal king could be killed so easily, he wouldn't be so famous today. Behind him, boundless law energy congregated, resonating with human emperors as countless divine weapons manifested. They floated in every corner of his law domain, exuding divine might that could destroy everything in his domain. Rumble! An all-annihilating attack blasted towards Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian stepped out as countless divine weapons slammed into his body. Even though his defense was incomparably strong, it was still trembling unceasingly. If this continued on, his defense would collapse sooner or later. Boom! Stepping out, Qin Wendian unleashed his law domain as a supreme pagoda appeared, suppressing everything. Boundless pagoda intent erupted forth, shattering everything in this space, clashing against the divine weapons as it shot towards Huang Jiutian. Huang Jiutian's eyes flashed with a bright light when he sensed the suppressive might of the pagoda. What a powerful law energy! It was like a transcendent runic formation, exuding boundless might. However, Huang Jiutian stretched his hand out and grabbed out. In an instant, the human emperors within his law domain moved together with him. The might of their emperors engulfed the area, resonating with the great Tao as chaos ensued. Qin Wentian's body of law abruptly exploded as he was forced backwards. A destructive storm of emperor might bore down on him, wanting to crush him into pieces. This law domain seems to be able to amplify his attacks. Huang Jiutian is as expected of a peak-stage immortal king-prince character of the 9 emperors immortal state. Qin Wendian silently mused. His words were filled with boundless arrogance. He mustn't show any signs of weakness. But in combat, he wouldn't lower his guard and underestimate his opponent. His sword intent towered up into the sky. Qin Wendian unsheathed his divine weapon and slashed out with a wave of his hand, cleaving apart the storm. Stepping out, he stabbed out with the dream devil swordplay, causing Huang Jiutian to be in a daze. However, what sort of character was Huang Jiutian? How could he be fooled by Qin Wendian for too long? He instantly reacted and punched out. His human emperor body resonated with him once more, causing the heavens and earth to tremble as he transformed into the supreme might of the great Tao. The sword was like a true dragon, colliding head-on with the emperor fist, causing a thunderous sound to echo out. Huang Jiutian folded ancient seals in his hands, summoning the ancient emperors. Rumbling sounds rang out as numerous ancient emperors descended from the sky, completely sealing this space, wanting to kill Qin Wendian here. "You can die now." Huang Jiutian coldly snorted. Countless emperor-ranked divine weapons shot towards Qin Wendian. At the same time, the sovereigns resonated, emitting the melody of the great Tao. A supreme might manifested in this space as he blasted out an emperor-ranked palm imprint. The sovereigns also blasted out, wanting to destroy everything. Qin Wendian's eyes gleamed with a demonic light as he stared at Huang Jiutian. The bloodline in his body erupted forth as a blood-colored light shot out from his body. However, it was suppressed by Qin Wendian. "Die!" Qin Wendian roared. His sharp sword slashed out in a frenzy, shattering the ancient imprints one after another. However, there was still a supreme might that slammed into him, wanting to destroy him. Huang Jiutian's eyes flashed with coldness when he saw Qin Wendian's silhouette vanishing. "A mid-stage immortal king dares to challenge the prestige of my 9 emperors' immortal state? Overestimating your own capabilities." Huang Jiutian's aura dissipated, exuding an incomparably imposing aura. The experts of the 9 emperors' immortal state and the surrounding experts were all stunned. What was going on with Huang Jiutian? Earlier, Qin Wendian opened up a path with his sword. Although he was injured, he managed to dodge to the side, exuding terrifying might. Huang Jiutian actually dared to say such words? It was as though he had already killed Qin Wendian. Someone was bewildered. All of a sudden, the countenances of the experts of the 9 emperors' immortal state drastically changed. "Careful!" A roar rang out, penetrating through everything, startling Huang Jiutian. Chapter 1482. An incomparably resplendent sword light radiated forth. When Huang Jiutian retracted his aura, it suddenly erupted forth. His sword was extremely swift, as the shadow of a great rock appeared within the sword light, as well as a supreme holy will. Huang Jiutian was startled awake. His eyes narrowed as he stared in shock at the scene before him. How could this be? His cultivation base was at the peak stage of the immortal king realm, and he was a supreme character. Summoning an ancient emperor, causing the heavens and earth to rumble with his might, suppressing Qin Wendian. Earlier, that strike should have already killed Qin Wendian, turning his bones into dust and dispersing his soul. But what was going on now? Illusionary realm. Given his cultivation base, how can he bewitch me? Huang Jiutian's mind spun as his aura erupted forth. He instantly understood what was going on, but he still didn't understand. However, this wasn't the time for him to search for answers. A short kill sword shot over, threatening his life. Law energy circulated frenziedly around his body as his defense grew incomparably strong. Huang Jiutian roared, resembling a supreme ancient emperor. His body abruptly expanded in size. Huang Jiutian knew that this sword strike was simply too fast and there was no way for him to evade it. He could only take it head-on. Naturally, while defending, he didn't forget to attack, weakening his opponent's sword technique. However, just as Huang Jiutian dissipated the energy, Qin Wendian unleashed a sure kill attack. How could the two of them be compared? The great rock was incomparably resplendent, its wings dazzling and even sharper than a sharp sword. The sword's saint will was infused into it, making it unstoppable, capable of destroying everything. As it descended, it tore everything apart. A loud sound rang out. Huang Jiutian roared out explosively. His chest was directly pierced through, revealing a terrifying bloody wound. Borrowing the force of that attack, he retreated explosively, instantly appearing far away as the two of them faced each other. Lowering his head, Huang Jiutian glanced at the wound on his chest. Golden blood flowed within his body, the blood of emperors. His damaged body was gradually recovering. He inclined his head and stared at Qin Wenyin as he asked, "How did you do this?" "Illusionary realm. Don't you know?" Qin Wenyin stared at Huang Jiutian as he spoke. "Impossible, your cultivation base is at the mid-stage of the immortal king realm. How can an ordinary illusion technique be able to trap me?" Huang Jiutian didn't believe it. "You are a frog at the bottom of a well. You think you are so high and mighty. You are a so-called prince. I am more than capable of that," Qin Wenyin said domineeringly. "Imperial brother, be careful. It's still an illusion." Huang Shatian shouted to remind Huang Jiutian. Huang Jiutian looked ahead, but Qin Wenyin was not there at all. Qin Wenyin had circled to his side, and Huang Jiutian seemed to be talking to the air. "Qi!" Another resplendent beam of sword light slashed down. Huang Jiutian roared. He directly closed his eyes and used his immortal sense to lock onto Qin Wentian's location. When he saw Qin Wentian's sword attack, he didn't hesitate to summon the ancient emperor. But when that sword landed, a terrifying sword wound was left on his arm. The terrifying sword intent gushed into his body, causing him to roar madly as energy gushed forth. How could this be? He actually fell into an illusion again and again. Everything was the same as reality. The people and things in the surroundings, everything was the same as reality. There were no flaws at all. What's going on? The experts of the 9 Emperors' immortal state stood together as their auras gushed forth, prepared to act at any moment. Why was the Saber Sword Immortal King's illusionary techniques so powerful? Before this, they only knew that the law domain he created was extremely tyrannical and had extremely strong defenses. But they had never heard that the Saber Sword Immortal King was proficient in illusions as well. In addition, this was different from ordinary illusionary techniques. It caused Huang Jiutian to fall into a completely different space, believing that it was real. If not, he wouldn't be mumbling to himself. His eyes are truly demonic. My royal brother closed his eyes. I wonder if it would be of any use. Huang Shatian stared at this battle. Huang Jiutian was a peak-stage immortal king with unparalleled combat prowess. He actually encountered such a terrifying opponent. This Saber Sword Immortal King was merely at the peak stage of the mid-stage, an entire level lower. Wasn't this a little too demon level? Given how vast the immortal realms were, it was truly possible for geniuses to appear. Also, in the city of ancient emperors, those supreme characters who stood at the peak were all even more outstanding compared to Huang Jiutian. This involuntarily caused Huang Shatian to think of a certain person. That unparalleled magnificence, that person who completely suppressed his arrogance, causing his personality to undergo a drastic change, was none other than Qin Wenyin. If my royal brother is in danger, we have to act. One of them transmitted his voice over. Even if they had to lose face, it was impossible for them to watch Huang Jiutian being killed by the Saber Sword Immortal King. Everyone watched with rapt attention. They discovered that other than the Saber Sword Immortal King's illusionscape ability, he also erupted forth with the power of his bloodline. His attacks grew even stronger, becoming even more violent and tyrannical. This was extremely disadvantageous to Huang Jiutian. At this moment, the spectators saw Qin Wenyin suddenly giving up the battle. His silhouette drifted to the side, but Huang Jiutian still continued to gather his might as he blasted out towards Qin Wenyin. "Prepare to die. Royal brother!" Huang Shatian roared again. At this moment, another peak-stage immortal king from the 9 Emperors' immortal states camp stepped out, flying towards Qin Wenyin as he slashed out with his sword. Huang Jiutian also reacted, but he slashed out again. This sword strike was even more ruthless compared to before, directly penetrating through half of his body. If it wasn't for his terrifying defense, as well as the protection of his ancient emperor might, he would have been killed by this sword strike. But even so, he still let out a howl of agony as he retreated. Just when Qin Wenyan wanted to pursue, he saw the peak stage immortal king from the Nine Emperors' immortal state slashing out with his sword. He could only give up. The experts from the Nine Emperors' immortal state stepped out at the same time, surrounding Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan coldly laughed when he saw this scene. His silhouette flickered as he retreated, increasing the distance between them. The experts from the Nine Emperors' immortal state instantly retreated to Huang Jiutian's side, staring warily at Qin Wenyan. "Royal brother, how is it?" Huang Shatian asked. Huang Jiutian took out a medicinal pill and tossed it into his mouth. The blood in his body surged frenziedly as the human emperor blood healed his horrifying injuries. However, his body was trembling unceasingly, not only because of his injuries, but also because of the humiliation of being defeated. He didn't even reply to Huang Shatian, he only coldly stared at Qin Wenyan as he asked, "How did you do it exactly? Why can't I escape from your illusionary arts even when I close my eyes?" Qin Wenyan naturally didn't use ordinary illusionary arts. Back then in the mountain range, he saw an ancient character who was suppressed and was able to create dreams with a single thought. Qin Wenyan comprehended something in his heart. Although he wasn't able to create a completely foreign dreamscape with a single thought, he could still attempt to create the simplest dreamscape. It was similar to the outside world. It was easier to confuse others. Naturally, if his opponent's cultivation base was far lower than his, he could also do the same as that ancient character and directly create a dream, causing his opponent to fall into a trance and be unable to escape. Huang Jiutian's cultivation base was higher than his, and his will was extremely tough as well. It was extremely difficult to confuse him, but he still managed to do it. Qin Wenyan comprehended for a very long time before he finally succeeded. He used the soul control ability of the immortal scripture into the power of rules, and in the end, he succeeded. Although Huang Jiutian was still able to break free after he reacted, it was already enough. Qin Wenyan borrowed this power to confuse Huang Jiutian and from there, defeated him. If it wasn't for the people from the Nine Emperors' immortal state interfering, he might even be able to kill Huang Jiutian. But how could Qin Wenyan tell Huang Jiutian about this? The Nine Emperors' immortal state, is this the strongest person you have? Qin Wenyan had a mocking expression on his face. Kill me? If it wasn't for the fact that we have more people, there would be another prince under my sword. Do you dare to fight me fair and square without using illusions? Huang Jiutian spoke with shame and anger. Illusions aren't part of this seat's abilities? Fight me fair and square? If that's the case, you would already be a dead man. As a prince of the Nine Emperors' immortal state, can you be any more shameless? Qin Wenyan spoke in disdain. The experts in the surroundings were speechless. They didn't expect that even Huang Jiutian would be defeated. Who else could suppress this saber-sword immortal king? Ha! A tyrannical voice rang out. Qin Wenyan and the others inclined their heads only to see the Yama king, who was sitting on a dragon chariot pulled by 8 flood dragons, staring down at Qin Wenyan as he spoke. Saber-sword immortal king, I take back my earlier words. Your strength is extraordinary and in the future, you would surely have great accomplishments. In the future, you might even have my achievements. I'll give you a chance now. Kneel down and apologize. From now on, you can follow me and serve me as your lord. If that's the case, I won't make things difficult for you. This Yama king actually cherishes talent. Seems like after witnessing the battle between the saber-sword immortal king and Huang Jiutian, the Yama king was shaken and knew how strong the saber-sword immortal king is. In the future, he would definitely become a character at the peak of the immortal king realm in the city of ancient emperors. Hence, he wanted to recruit the saber-sword immortal king as his subordinate. Everyone mused. Being able to make the Yama king take back his words earlier, one could see how extraordinary the saber-sword immortal king was. It's just that although the saber-sword immortal king was an unparalleled character, his cultivation base was still a little lacking. If he reached the peak stage of the immortal king realm, wouldn't he be another Yama king? How could he be willing to serve someone else? In addition, he even had to kneel down and apologize. This was undoubtedly a great humiliation. Qin Wenyin inclined his head, his eyes gleaming with sharpness as he replied, "If you kneel down and apologize to me, I can forget about today's matter and won't find trouble for you in the future." Interesting. King Yenluo smiled. "I know that people like us all have their own pride, but don't forget, even if one day you can fight against the current me, if you die here today, all your years of cultivation will be destroyed, all your dreams will be for naught, and all your years of cultivation will be for naught. Don't think that just because you defeated Huang Jiutian, you would be able to contend against me. This crown prince isn't on the same level as him. Have you thought this through clearly?" The Yama King's tone was filled with arrogance. He basically didn't have Huang Jiutian in his eyes at all. For a character like him, a supreme crown prince who could reign supreme in the immortal king realm, his pride and arrogance was something that ordinary people would never be able to imagine. Such a character had the pride to stand above the heavens and earth, as well as the ambition to shock the past and present. Qin Wenyin glanced at the emperor's fate behind the Yama King. It soared up into the 9 heavens, resplendent to the extreme. Just from the emperor's fate alone, Qin Wenyin also understood that Huang Jiutian and the Yama King weren't on the same level. But even so, was it possible for him to kneel down and apologize? Today, this seat shall use the strength of a mid-stage immortal king to experience the strength of a character at the peak of the immortal king realm in the city of ancient emperors. He actually dares to boast so shamelessly, wanting this seat to follow him? Qin Wentian's aura surged wildly as his battle intent towered up into the clouds. Chapter 1483. The people in the surroundings were all shocked. They didn't expect that this saber-sword immortal king would actually dare to challenge the Yama King. Yama King, a mid-stage immortal king, wants to challenge you? A supreme greater demon turned his gaze over as he calmly spoke. That supreme greater demon from the Sun Gold race who was sitting on the sun chariot stared over. Clearly, he was extremely interested in this. There weren't many people who could cause them to be interested. The Yama King was one of them. Among the humans in the city of ancient emperors, the Yama King was the strongest immortal king. Even Huang Jiutian wasn't qualified to be his opponent. But now, a mid-stage immortal king wanted to challenge the Yama King. Haha. Do you want to see the strength of this crown prince? The Yama King laughed uproariously as he stared at Qin Wenyin. His arrogant laughter caused the heavens and earth to tremble. The spectators only felt their blood and meridians trembling as their bodies trembled unstably. This laughter was too terrifying, like the voice of a primordial beast, or the voice of the great Tao, causing everyone to tremble uneasily. The Yama King laughed uproariously. Thunderous rumbling sounds echoed out as many experts exclaimed in shock. Some of the weaker initial stage immortal kings retreated far away. The mid-stage immortal kings behind them also retreated far away. They felt their bodies trembling violently, as though they were about to explode from the force of the explosion. Everything before their eyes turned blurry as the entire space shook. When they stared at the figure on the war chariot, great waves of shock rose in their hearts. Was this the might of a supreme crown prince? He was simply too powerful. Huang Jiutian couldn't be compared to him at all. That figure slowly stood up from the war chariot as his laughter continued. His physique was incomparably imposing, like an unexcelled divinity standing in the air. Qin Wenyin inclined his head as an unsightly expression appeared on his face. Even for someone as powerful as him, he also felt his heart trembling. His soul trembled as his blood thrummed violently. That laughter contained a magical power, causing the laws of heaven and earth to tremble violently. This Yama King was simply too powerful. He truly wasn't on the same level as Huang Jiutian. No wonder he dared to be so arrogant, disregarding everything in his eyes. Since you want to see this crown prince's strength, then this king will fulfill your wish. A voice that shook the heavens and earth rang out. Although it seemed calm, it caused the entire space to tremble. It was like the sound of the great Tao. He stood there, lofty, exuding divine might. Even though his body didn't expand, he still gave off an incomparably majestic feeling. He was a king among kings. From afar, many people felt despair when they saw this scene. Was this the great era? Even for peak-stage immortal kings of the same cultivation realm, there were some people who could cause others to feel despair. The Yama King and the Sabersword Immortal King were clearly such people. They were so strong that people at the same level of the Immortal King realm felt that they were too far away from them, causing them to feel dispirited. In this world, it seemed that there were truly some extraordinary people born from birth. No wonder he was the supreme crown prince of the Sunluo Immortal Empire. There were many princes in the Sunluo Immortal Empire, and experts were as common as the clouds. In fact, there were even immortal emperor-ranked princes among them. However, the successor of the empire has long been decided. This supreme crown prince was directly conferred the position of crown prince, and no one would object to it. Only to see the Yama King staring disdainfully at Qin Wenyin, unexcelled in the world. His laughter hadn't subsided yet. He then roared, "Azura hell!" As the sound of his voice faded, the entire space seemed to explode as law energy surged. A terrifying might directly bore down on Qin Wenyin. With a thunderous boom, Qin Wenyin was forced back. He groaned in misery as he inclined his head and stared at the surroundings. The entire space around him transformed into a law domain, the Azura Hell. The Azura Hell was truly like hell on earth. It was terrifying to the extreme. Blood-red magma filled the area, filled with a tyrannical aura of darkness and destruction. The tyrannical might of the chaotic laws caused this law domain to become the absolute domain of the Yama King. Emichim? Qin Wenyin furrowed his brows. He discovered that he had no way to control any other law energy other than his body. He couldn't borrow the power of the heavens and earth. The cold wind from the Azura Hell changed the laws of this space, toppling everything. This was the Yama King's territory, no one can invade it. This king can see that you are extraordinary and will give you one last chance. Are you willing to kneel to this king and follow me from now on? The Yama King's voice shook the heavens and earth. Scram! Qin Wenyin spoke, his words causing the hearts of the experts to tremble. The Sabersword Immortal King was actually unwilling to submit. However, the Sabersword Immortal King himself was also a shocking genius. How could someone like him be willing to kneel and apologize? But sadly, he wasn't willing to kneel and follow the Yama King. The Yama King would definitely kill him, he wouldn't leave him alive. Scram! The Yama King laughed uproariously again. His laughter grew more and more terrifying, shaking the heavens and earth. That feeling from before appeared once again. Also, as he laughed, the Azura Hell started to rampage. From within the Azura Hell, numerous destructive devil kings walked out. All of them had gigantic bodies, glaring with anger and wielding spears of the underworld. There were also those with 3 heads and 6 arms, wielding spiked clubs. All of them exuded a fearsome aura, as though they had just walked out from hell. The Yama King can use his Azura Hell to kill peak-stage immortal kings. How terrifying to the extreme. How can this Sabersword Immortal King contend against him? Some of the immortal kings in the central regions had some understanding of the Yama King and knew how terrifying he was. This was a baleful god. His Azura Hell was able to throw the laws of the world into chaos, causing others to have no control over them. Qin Wenyin had a heavy expression on his face. He could also sense how powerful the Yama King was. One could say that the Yama King was the strongest opponent he had ever fought against. Within his body, the constellation formed from his astral souls radiated a resplendent light, causing his entire body to be filled with boundless law energy. He had to kill his way out. If he stayed in here, he could only borrow the law energy in his body. In fact, he couldn't even form a law domain. If he stayed here, he would only be waiting for death. There was no chance at all. The Azura Hell's law domain was truly powerful. It actually had the power to throw laws into chaos. Rumble! The terrifying Hell King's spear pierced towards him. It was like the spear of the death god, capable of destroying all law energy as it shot towards Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin brandished his sword and saber as the law energy in his body surged. He slashed out with his saber, manifesting a dark saber light that slashed apart the heavens and earth, colliding with the Underworld King's spear. The Underworld King's spear contained the power to shatter laws, causing the law energy within the saber to be thrown into chaos. After that, the Underworld King's spear continued on its way towards Qin Wenyin. Even the demons of the Azura Hell have the power to shatter laws? Qin Wenyan's heart trembled. For immortal kings, all their attacks were formed from law energy. If the opponent's attack could shatter laws, it would undoubtedly weaken the power of their attacks, destroying their defenses and attacks. Qin Wenyin lifted his fist, activating the Vajra Holy Will, and punched out, shattering the Underworld King's spear. His cold eyes stared at the demon kings in this domain. The Azura Hell trembled as more and more demon kings appeared. Qin Wenyin didn't even have a chance to act against the Yama King. The strength of the Yama King was simply too terrifying. Huang Jiutian couldn't be compared to him at all. A three-headed, six-armed demon king wielded a gigantic spiked mace and smashed it towards Qin Wenyin, exuding boundless might. Qin Wentian's mind spun like lightning, thinking of how to break out of this Azura Hell. His fist transformed into a golden demonic dragon, and with a thunderous boom, the two of them exploded. Behind him, an incomparably gigantic Purgatory Devil King lifted his foot and stomped towards Qin Wenyin. His entire body shone with magma flames as well as darkness devil might. He was like a destructive devil king that came from the depths of the abyss. With a single stomp, Qin Wenyin felt a violent wave of destructive flames enveloping him. That devil king stomped down on him. Bzz. Qin Wentian's speed was extremely fast. A pair of wings of a heavenly rock appeared behind him as he moved with lightning speed, evading that stomp. As the gigantic foot stomped down, the Azura Hell rumbled. Those demon kings unceasingly launched attacks at Qin Wenyin. However, Qin Wentian's speed exploded forth. His movement technique was incomparably exquisite. He was like a true great rock, evading all the attacks. His movement technique is so powerful as well. What other abilities does this saber-sword immortal king have hidden? Many people felt shock in their hearts. The saber-sword immortal king was truly a heaven-shaking character. Sadly, he encountered the supreme crown prince, the Yama King, whose cultivation base was higher than him. Both of them were Empyreans who could jump levels to do battle. If the cultivation base of the other party was higher, the saber-sword immortal king could only be suppressed. Hide? Do you think you can hide in this king's Azura Hell? In the air, the supreme crown prince laughed uproariously. He stretched out his palm as his law domain rumbled, becoming even more terrifying. Numerous demon kings appeared, guarding the Azura Hell, wanting to seal this entire space. The supreme divine body of the Sanluo Immortal Empire truly lives up to its name. Some supreme immortal kings from the central regions silently mused. They knew very well how terrifying the supreme crown prince was. Qin Wenyin stared at the demon kings around him as his countenance turned ashen. In the Azura Hell, he could only use his own law energy, and the strength he could unleash was greatly limited. If this continued, he wouldn't even have a chance to get close to the Yama King. Bzz. Qin Wenyin radiated resplendent light as he soared into the air, rushing out of the Azura Hell's law domain. However, the Yama King laughed uproariously. Numerous terrifying demon kings launched attacks at him. Qin Wenyin brandished his saber and sword, cleaving apart everything with ease. However, these demon kings seemed to be endless. The Azura Hell was also boundless. Finally, with a thunderous boom, Qin Wenyin was struck. He coughed out a mouthful of blood as his body fell from the air. Bang! Another Devil King palm slammed down, slamming Qin Wenyin into the ground. However, Qin Wentian's physique was as expected of a heaven-shaking one. Even after such an attack, his body didn't explode. Only the light of his defense dimmed. Rumble! That terrifying foot appeared once more, stomping down. A thunderous boom rang out, shaking the hearts of everyone. Qin Wenyin was crushed under the foot. It was unknown if he was still alive or dead. The saber-sword immortal king was killed? The hearts of everyone trembled. Chapter 1484. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with an incomparably terrifying light. The Yama King felt a surge of energy penetrating into his eyes, causing his eyes to gleam even more resplendent. He could see through everything, not being able to enter the dreamscape. Rumbling sounds rang out as his blood flowed. His bones wriggled unceasingly as devil might gushed forth, returning his body to its original state. The eyes of the Yama King, who was seated in the air, had a strange look on his face. The demon kings of the Azura Hell all had extremely strong combat prowess. Each of them had attacks at the peak stage of the Immortal King realm, yet they still couldn't kill him? In addition, this Saber-Sword Immortal King's performance had truly stunned her. He was simply too outstanding. Other than his cultivation base being lower, he could stand shoulder to shoulder with those peak characters. The sky changed color, transforming into countless swords and sabers as law energy gushed forth. What a pity! If the Saber-Sword Immortal King could break through to the peak stage of the Immortal King realm, that would surely be an even more spectacular clash. Sadly, we won't be able to see that. Many people sighed in their hearts when they saw Qin Wenyin being suppressed by a single kick. For a character like the Saber-Sword Immortal King, it was truly too much of a pity if he died. After breaking through to the peak stage of the Immortal King realm, he would be a character that stood at the peak. Even the Yama King himself said this. But the Saber-Sword Immortal King wasn't willing to submit. Boom! A boundless devil might gushed forth, soaring up into the sky. Qin Wenyin stood up as his eyes gleamed with coldness. After that, he soared into the air, resembling a terrifying great rock, rushing towards the Yama King. He actually didn't die? The eyes of everyone flashed with a strange light. Not only did he not die, he actually rushed towards the Yama King as a fearsome might gushed forth from him. That devil might from the Azura Hell engulfed the area, growing even more violent compared to before. Even the sky turned dark. It was like the attack from the Azura Hell didn't have much of an effect on the Saber-Sword Immortal King. The Yama King also had a strange look on his face. He stared at Qin Wenyin, who was rushing towards him, as he coldly laughed. Interesting. It would be a pity to kill you, King Yen Luo said indifferently. He stepped forward and walked towards Qin Wenyin. Before this, in the ancient Emperor Palace of the Gazing Emperor City, the Saber-Sword Immortal King stood up for the Namhuang clan before. Seems like there's already some feelings between the two of you. The Namhuang clan has the bloodline of my demonic race. If you are willing to accompany my clan, I might consider taking revenge for you. A transcendent greater demon coldly spoke, as though he was unexcelled in the world. His words caused the expressions of the experts of the Namhuang clan to turn cold. Is he dead? An indescribable emotion appeared in Su Qingyao's heart. She actually didn't feel the joy of seeing her enemy dying. In fact, she felt a sense of disappointment instead. Although this fellow humiliated her back then, he didn't touch her at all during those 7 days. If not, given the Saber-Sword Immortal King's lawless personality, he wouldn't care who she, Su Qingyao, was. Interesting. If you guys want to interfere, we can only kill all of you together. A transcendent greater demon spoke. Tuoba Saint Sky ignored him. He borrowed the power of spatial law energy from one of them, enveloping Qin Wenyin and the experts of the Namhuang clan. Numerous figures flashed over. There were actually 2 groups of people. Among them, many had pale expressions on their faces. As expected of a Supreme Crown Prince character. Many peak-stage immortal kings in the city of ancient emperors aren't even qualified to carry his shoes for him. He can kill them with a single strike. His Azura Hell is infused with many different types of law energy, as well as the supreme secret arts of the Sanluo Immortal Empire. Only this crown prince would be able to fuse them so perfectly. His cultivation base is also at the peak stage of the Immortal King realm. In the entire Immortal realms, only those at the very peak would be able to contend against him. However, a devil might penetrated through everything, slashing into his soul, causing the Yama King's eyes to narrow. He didn't expect the Saber-Sword Immortal King to have cultivated soul attacks as well. How tough to deal with. The experts from the Namhuang clan and the Heavenly Talisman realm both stepped out, arriving before Qin Wenyin. When the Yama King saw this scene, he laughed uproariously. You guys want to obstruct me? Can you block me? Qin Wenyin was forced back as he groaned in misery. His body was injured as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were incomparably cold as he inclined his head and stared at the Yama King. Even in close combat, his opponent's attack was still extremely powerful, as expected of a supreme crown prince. Such a character was born extraordinary and had many terrifying methods. This king has given him a chance to submit to this king, but he refused. In addition, this king's actions are none of your business. The Yama King stared disdainfully at the holy maidens of the Namhuang clan as he spoke. This king has already given you a choice. Since you refused, I can only kill you. The Yama King was lofty, his tone cold, exuding a disdainful aura. The 8 flood dragons pulled the dragon carriage and came to his side. The Yama King sat down as the Azura hell vanished. Qin Wentian's body appeared. He was flattened as his blood flowed in the air. But his body was actually still floating there. Let me borrow your law energy. Tuoba Saint Sky spoke. The experts around him understood. They instantly assimilated their law energy into Tuoba Saint Sky. He lifted his fist and punched out, wanting to lacerate everything. His fist collided with the palm imprint of the Yama King. Go to hell! With a thunderous roar, the Yama King's entire body blazed with purgatory flames, enveloping his soul within. The Azura hell appeared once more, enveloping this entire space, including him and Qin Wenin. The attacks of the two clashed, causing the heavens and earth to be thrown into chaos. A destructive law turbulence swept through the vast space, causing even those who stood extremely far away to feel a tyrannical pressure. The whistling law storm blew over, causing everyone to feel a sense of fear. One could only imagine how terrifying the power that the two of them were enduring. How could the Yama King not understand Qin Wentian's intentions? His eyes gleamed with disdain as he waved his hand, causing the demon kings to step aside. Since this saber-sword immortal king wanted to test his close combat prowess, he would grant him his wish. He fled. The eyes of that greater demon gleamed with a demonic light. Mph! The Yama King coldly snorted as an incomparably resplendent emperor light shone from his body. He laughed uproariously, causing the space around him to distort. Numerous demon kings appeared before him, blocking the attacks for him, as though he didn't even need to do anything. The eyes of everyone turned to the same direction as they sighed in their hearts, feeling pity for the saber-sword immortal king. The immortal realms were simply like this, incomparably cruel. Although the saber-sword immortal king was already a supreme demon-level character, now that the great era has arrived, if one wanted to ascend to the peak, they had to defeat all the geniuses in the world. Even if you have outstanding talent, there's still a possibility of you dying. This was a war between kings. In the future, if the people here wanted to ascend to the peak, they still had to fight against immortal emperors. Tuoba Saint Sky and Jun Mingchen's group also rushed over. Jun Mingchen's aura was extremely terrifying. Tuoba Saint Sky saw the change in his aura and spoke, he shouldn't have died. If not, it's impossible for him to float in the air. The Azura Hell contained the power of chaos. His only chance was to engage in close combat. Kill. A sword slashed down, containing the holy will of swords within. A supremely sharp sword might manifested, exuding boundless devil might, capable of annihilating all existences. The flood dragons and war chariots behind the Yama King were all torn apart. His palms trembled as he felt a tearing energy gushing into his body. His eyes gleamed with a terrifying sharpness. A mid-stage immortal king was actually able to unleash an attack to such an extent. He could truly be considered a rare character. Chi! Beams of resplendent devil light shot out as the devil saber slashed down. The Yama King didn't even bother to glance at it. He simply lifted his hand and slashed out, causing the heavens and earth to tremble as the law energy in the area churned wildly. Kacha! A crisp sound rang out from Qin Wentian's body. After that, a surge of devil might gushed forth, causing the expressions of everyone to gleam with sharpness. What sort of monster was this saber-sword immortal king exactly? He actually didn't die from such an attack and was proficient in devil attribute energy. Could it be that he cultivated some sort of devil art? Not bad. The Yama King roared. Both his palms blasted out with enough force to topple mountains and overturn seas. Behind him, a terrifying phantom manifested, resembling a scene from the depths of hell. At this instant, the Yama King had transformed into the King of Hell. His palms wreaked havoc, annihilating everything. Behind him, numerous terrifying devils from hell appeared, acting as his protectors. Qin Wentian's sword slashed downwards, containing an unfathomable amount of power within. A powerful screen of sword light enveloped everything as holy will flowed within. A terrifying vortex swallowed everything as devil might churned intensely. Within the terrifying devil might, a terrifying sword vortex manifested, containing the power of tens of thousands of demons. Boundless energy was infused into that single sword strike, causing tens of thousands of meters of sword light to manifest, shaking the heavens and earth. Farewell. As the sound of his voice faded, he stepped out and actually soared through the air, departing the area. This caused everyone to frown. Qin Wentian continued forward, as though there was no power that could obstruct him. 3 types of holy wills revolved around him, erupting forth frenziedly. Although he had no way to borrow the power of the laws of heaven and earth, he unleashed all of them and directly appeared before the Yama King, wanting to clash head-on. As he spoke, he stood up from the war chariot once more. After speaking, he lifted his palm and blasted it downwards, causing the entire space to turn dark. What physique is this? The hearts of the spectators trembled. The Yama King also started. He glanced in the distance as he spoke. Interesting. Now that a Tao element has appeared, let's temporarily spare them. Unless they give up on the good fortune in the city of ancient emperors, they would still be killed sooner or later. The Namhuang clan? Someone spoke in a low voice. One of the experts was actually from the Namhuang clan. There were quite a few holy maidens from the Namhuang clan present. Namhuang Yunxi's countenance turned pale as her heart trembled. She came to the side of Qin Wenin and stretched out her trembling hand. She knew that the saber-sword immortal king was none other than Qin Wenin. As a character at the peak of the immortal king realm, the Yama King's arrogance had long seeped into his bones. No matter what methods Qin Wentian used, he wouldn't fear him at all. Yama King, as a peak-stage immortal king, you actually chose to deal with a mid-stage immortal king? Don't you feel any shame? A holy maiden at the peak stage of the Namhuang clan inclined her head and stared at the air as she asked. Emichim? The eyes of many flashed. How could he still be alive? Chapter 1485. The eyes of the crowd flashed with bewilderment. Earlier, that peak-stage immortal king actually managed to shatter Yan Luotian's palm attack with a single strike. Although he borrowed the force of the palm attack, such a unique ability was extremely powerful, able to assimilate law energy and was extremely profound. The saber-sword immortal king had many enemies, but he also had many friends. The Namhuang clan was also on good terms with him. However, after offending the Supreme Crown Prince and some peak-stage greater demons, it would be hard for him to have a foothold in the city of ancient emperors. To think that we failed to kill him. The experts from the 9 Emperors' immortal state all had unsightly expressions on their faces. The saber-sword immortal king was a supreme enemy to them. Even the strongest character in their 9 Emperors' immortal state, Huang Jiutian, was defeated by him. Both sides already had a death grudge. If the saber-sword immortal king didn't die, their 9 Emperors' immortal state's humiliation would never end. Everyone knew that the saber-sword immortal king had killed many people from their 9 Emperors' immortal state. Naturally, there were also experts from the Supreme Sword School and Taihua immortal dynasty. They were all extremely depressed that the saber-sword immortal king actually managed to escape. However, those peak characters didn't have too much of a reaction. They turned their gazes away and continued to comprehend the Tao elements raining down from the sky. In a certain direction, an extraordinary figure sat cross-legged in the air. Boundless Buddhic light radiated from him, as though he had an indestructible golden body. Countless Buddhic runes floated around him, exuding a dignified aura like a supreme ancient Buddha, able to inherit the great Tao of the heavens and earth. It's actually him. The eyes of many flashed as they stared at that figure. I didn't expect this. Many major powers, including the Ascart Temple, have yet to obtain the power of a Tao element. Yet, this man actually managed to do so before them. However, it's true that he's extraordinary and is one of the strongest characters in the city of ancient emperors. I've long heard that one of the three major powers of the southern regions, the Jiang clan, is low profile. This Jiang Zihua's magnificence is unparalleled, and he might be the future leader of the Jiang clan. It's rumored that the ancestor of the Jiang clan was a Buddhist monk. After that, he saw through the Buddhist Tao and returned to the secular world, becoming a peak power that has existed until now. Looks like the Buddhist techniques passed down by the Jiang clan aren't inferior to those Buddhist sects. Many people sighed with emotion and were rather shocked in their hearts. As for Qin Wenin and the others, Tuoba Saint Sky used the power of the void to traverse the distance between them. In the blink of an eye, the group had already arrived on an extremely distant mountain peak. Senior brother, why is there a need to be so powerful? Why don't you just start a war with that bastard crown prince? Jun Mingchen said to Tuoba Saint Sky, feeling a little angry. Given Tuoba Saint Sky's strength, in addition to borrowing the law energy of everyone in the heavenly talisman realm, his combat prowess would definitely be extremely terrifying. There was no need for him to care about that arrogant and despotic crown prince. Don't you see those big demons staring at us like tigers eyeing their prey? There are also people from the 9 Emperors' immortal state and people from the Purple Mountain. They are guarding at the side, ready to attack at any time. Once a group battle breaks out, the consequences will be out of control. Tuoba Saint Sky spoke. Clearly, he was considering the overall situation. He also knew that the Sabersword Immortal King's true identity was Qin Wenin and naturally knew who the Sabersword Immortal King had offended. Zi Daolong died in his hands. There was no doubt that the people from the Purple Mountain were here for revenge. Damn it, if he reached the peak stage of the Immortal King realm, Master? Jun Mingchen wanted to call out Qin Wenin as his senior brother, but he suddenly shut his mouth. How can the Sabersword Immortal King be defeated by that Yama King? That fellow merely relied on his cultivation base at the peak stage of the Immortal King realm to bully others. If I'm at his level, I would definitely be able to kill him with a single punch. A defeat is a defeat. There's no need for you to console me. Qin Wenin casually smiled. He knew that Jun Mingchen was intentionally saying this to console him, telling him not to mind this defeat. How could this little thought be hidden from him? However, Qin Wenin underestimated him too much. How would he care about a defeat? He, Qin Wenin, has cultivated for so many years and was already an immortal king. But even so, his arrogance was so great that he could still afford to lose. Jun Mingchen's little thoughts were seen through. He smiled. This caused many people from the Namhuang clan and the Heavenly Talisman realm to feel bewildered. When did Jun Mingchen become so familiar with the Sabersword Immortal King? It's just that they have traveled together. It shouldn't be to such an extent, right? Also, earlier when the Sabersword Immortal King was trampled by the gigantic foot, Namhuang Yunxi's entire countenance changed. Her countenance turned pale as though she was in a daze. It was like the person who died was someone close to her. Could it be that the charm of the Sabersword Immortal King was so great? Is that Yama King really so powerful? Jun Mingchen asked. He was very familiar with Qin Wenin. Along the way, when hasn't Qin Wenin jumped levels to challenge others? Although he didn't personally witness it, he had heard of Qin Wentian's glory in the city of ancient emperors, killing over 10 immortal kings, including peak-stage immortal kings. How impressive was that? However, he was still defeated by the Yama King. The Yama King was directly conferred the title of Crown Prince among his many descendants. No one could contend against him. From this, one could very well imagine how powerful he is. Someone from the Namhuang clan spoke. In truth, there aren't many peak-stage immortal kings in the entire immortal realms. It's just that this time around, many of them suddenly appeared, all of them exuding boundless magnificence, gathering in the city of ancient emperors to welcome the arrival of the new era. Emichim, I heard that the Yama King's Azura Hell is infused with all sorts of astral souls, as well as secret arts from the Sunluo Immortal Empire. Its might is boundless. and it has the ability to distort the laws. The holy maidens of the Namhuang clan naturally paid attention to such characters and knew a little about them. The Azura Hell is a law domain of the Yama King. This law domain is already sufficient, containing all sorts of abilities. The most terrifying thing is just like what the holy maidens said, the ability to distort the laws. In there, we can only use the law energy in our bodies. We have no way to borrow the energy of the heavens and earth. This would undoubtedly greatly weaken the combat prowess of immortal kings, making it impossible for them to use their law domains. Qin Wendian knew that when using a law domain, one had to use one's body as the starting point, using the energy of the heavens and earth to form a domain. If the laws were distorted, how could one use their law domains? In that case, we have to be careful of this fellow in the future. Jun Mingchen spoke. This fellow is extremely conceited and incomparably arrogant. If it wasn't for the saber-sword immortal king taking advantage of Su Qinyao, he wouldn't have acted at all. In the future, even if he encounters us, he might not do anything to us. The holy maidens of the Namhuang clan spoke. The city of ancient emperors is already in chaos. There's no harm in being more cautious. Tuoba Saint Sky spoke. Saber-sword immortal king, what do you plan to do next? Why don't you come with us? It's different. I'm already used to roaming the city of ancient emperors alone, searching for good fortune. Qin Wendian smiled as he rejected. What about your injuries? Namhuang Yunshi felt a little worried. Don't worry about it, these minor injuries are nothing to me. Qin Wendian smiled, not minding it at all. Everyone could only nod their heads, and after that, they split up. Qin Wendian continued to roam the city of ancient emperors, searching for good fortune. Although he was defeated, his emperor's fate didn't diminish at all. It was still as resplendent as before, even more so than before. He fought against the Supreme Crown Prince, Yama King, with a mid-stage immortal king cultivation base. Everyone was in awe of how strong the saber-sword immortal king was. His emperor's fate grew stronger and stronger. Relying on his emperor's fate, Qin Wendian encountered many good fortune as his strength improved bit by bit. That Tao element had always existed in the city of ancient emperors. When the people of the immortal realms heard this news, a huge commotion shook the entire immortal realms. Experts all flocked to the city of ancient emperors, including immortal emperors. 2 years later, at the peak of a mountain, Qin Wendian stared at the horizons. During these 2 years, many changes occurred in the city of ancient emperors, giving birth to many good fortune. Countless experts who rushed to the city of ancient emperors benefited, and there were even many who managed to break through their bottlenecks, breaking through to the next level. However, Qin Wendian still felt that the peak stage of the immortal king realm was still very far away. The higher one cultivated, the harder it was to break through. Even if there were many good fortune, it was useless. He stared at the Tao element cascading down from the air. He believed that in the future, there might be more of it. However, he made a decision and decided to leave the city of ancient emperors. Being limited to a single world, it's hard to find good fortune. Qin Wendian mumbled. Although he might miss out on a great opportunity, so what of it? The Tao element was merely something tossed over by the immortal realms. He believed that cultivation ultimately still depended on one's own insights. As he thought of this, Qin Wendian's silhouette flashed as he left this place. The ancient mountain peak was empty. Just when all the powerful characters in the immortal realms were rushing to the city of ancient emperors, Qin Wendian silently left. Before he left, he went to take a look at Bai Qing, but he didn't reunite with her. Qin Wendian knew that the phenomenon in the city of ancient emperors wouldn't be brief and would continue on for a very long period of time. Next, the attention of everyone in the immortal realms would be focused on this place. The vast majority of people here wouldn't be willing to leave, and he would definitely return in the future. In the eastern regions of the immortal realms, in the Evergreen Kingdom Palace, Qin Wendian returned. However, Chongqing the Great and many other nobility experts weren't in the royal palace. They had all gone to the city of ancient emperors. Qin Wendian arrived at the princess residence. Right now, Who in the eastern regions didn't know that Qin Wenyan was the future prince consort of the empire? Naturally, no one would obstruct him. In the princess residence, Qing wasn't here, but Mo Qingqing was. You've returned. Upon seeing Qin Wentian's return, Mo Qingqing didn't say anything. She silently walked to Qin Wenyan and helped Qin Wenyan tidy his robes. She then spoke in a gentle voice. Elder sister Qing has been cultivating with senior GD during these years and rarely returns. Occasionally, she would come by to see if you have returned or not. Did you miss me? Qin Wenyan gently hugged Mo Qingqing. Each time they parted, many years would pass, causing Qin Wenyan to feel very ashamed. Qingqing, on the other hand, had no regrets. What do you think? Mo Qingqing winked mischievously as she stared at Qin Wenyan. I definitely didn't miss you. Qin Wenyan intentionally replied, causing Mo Qingqing to roll her eyes. She quietly leaned into his embrace as she replied in a light voice, I miss you every day. Qin Wenyan rubbed Mo Qingqing's head as he smiled. I told you to inform Qing, that if she returns, I will accompany the two of you to relax. Really? Mo Qingqing inclined her head and stared at Qin Wenyan. When have I ever lied to you? Qin Wenyan laughed. Mo Qingqing's beautiful eyes sparkled as she stared at the smile on Qin Wentian's face. You want me and elder sister Qing to accompany you? Do you have any good intentions? Black lines appeared on Qin Wentian's forehead as he replied in a crafty manner, What good intentions? Seeing the shameless smile on Qin Wentian's face, Mo Qingqing ruthlessly pinched his waist. Lecherous brat, as expected, you have no good intentions. Qin Wenyan felt that he was wronged. His thoughts were so pure. Chapter 1486. Qin Wenyan borrowed the teleportation array of the Evergreen Kingdom and returned to the immortal Qianbian Gate. He discovered that the Emperor Qianbian and Bai Wuya weren't around either. They had gone to the city of ancient emperors and Eastern Sage was there as well. Not only so, it was unknown how many experts of the immortal realms were rushing over to the city of ancient emperors. The number of experts wasn't any lesser compared to the time when the demon God Mountain appeared. Qin Wenyan instructed Qiyu, telling him to bring the experts of the Battle Saint tribe to the city of ancient emperors for tempering. These people were all supreme immortal kings. There was naturally no need for Qin Wenyan to worry about them. In addition, after they formed their formations, their combat prowess could be said to be extraordinary. They wouldn't be afraid even if they fought against those at the peak of the immortal realms. After that, Qin Wenyan returned to the Evergreen Kingdom. After some time, Qing'er appeared in the princess residence of the immortal empire. Qin Wenyan saw Qing'er who had just returned. She was dressed in a pure white dress and exuded an aura of nobility and elegance, incomparably pure and holy, like a mystical maiden from the 9 heavens. Right now, Qing'er, who was now at the immortal king realm, was even more dazzling than before. Qin Wenyan stared at the beauty before him with a dumbfounded look in his eyes. Qing'er also quietly stared at him. Although her countenance was as cold as ever, there was a deep emotion in her eyes. Qing'er. Qin Wenyan walked up and held Qing'er's dainty hands, gently stroking her hair. Master has gone to the city of ancient emperors. She gave the order for all the disciples to head there as well. Qing'er spoke in a light voice, her words causing Qin Wenyan to start. Seems like the commotion caused by the city of ancient emperors was simply too great. All the immortal emperors from the various powers were heading there. Are you going as well? Qin Wenyan was somewhat reluctant. Do you wish for me to go? Qing'er stared at Qin Wenyan as she asked in a melodious voice. I hope not. Qin Wenyan shook his head. He was filled with reluctance. It has been many years since they last met, and he couldn't bear to see Qing'er leave again. In addition, how dangerous the city of ancient emperors was right now. With such a beautiful fiancée, how could he be at ease? Right now, demonic beasts were everywhere in the city of ancient emperors, and geniuses were everywhere. Then I won't go, Qing'er said softly. Qin Wentian's eyes froze, and he said softly, Qing'er, you are so nice. In that case, how do you intend to compensate Sister Qing'er? Mo Qingqing walked over as she mischievously asked. How about I devote myself to you? Qin Wentian's lips curled into a smile. Trying to take advantage of me? No way. Mo Qingqing pulled Qing along. Sister Qing, let's ignore this fellow and go out to play. How about it? Sure. Qing smiled and nodded. The two of them walked side by side, tossing Qin Wenyan to the side. Qin Wenyan rolled his eyes. The harem was about to fall into chaos. He definitely couldn't allow this to continue. He had to take action. Staring at the two beautiful figures, the smile on Qin Wentian's face grew even more wretched. How would these two beauties know what this fellow was planning? Several days later, in a place extremely far away from the royal palace, there was a sea of flowers that resembled an immortal realm. This place was controlled by a beautiful immortal king of the Evergreen Kingdom. Amidst the sea of flowers, the two beauties danced gracefully. Qing was especially lively. She stepped on the flowers and placed a crown on Qing's head as she smiled. Sister Qing, you are so beautiful. You too. Qing smiled. Although the flowers are beautiful, the people are even more beautiful. They aren't as beautiful as the two of you. Qin Wentian followed behind them. Qing felt a sweetness in her heart. However, she only heard Mo Qingqing laughing mischievously. Sister Qing, don't listen to his honeyed words. Just ignore him, let's continue playing. Qing turned her head back and glanced at Qin Wenyan. A single smile of hers could charm 100 people. A single smile of hers could charm 100 people. After that, she continued holding hands with Mo Qingqing and ran ahead, completely ignoring his existence. This caused black lines to appear on Qin Wentian's forehead. Seems like he had to find an opportunity to punish this last Qingqing. How dare she be so mischievous? Several months later, in the northern regions of the Immortal Realms, on a towering ancient mountain peak that was incomparably majestic, as tall as the heavens. In front of it there was a sea. The mountain and the sea were connected, the sea and the sky were connected. Such a scene was incomparably beautiful. The sun rose from the east. At the peak of the ancient mountain, 3 figures could be seen quietly sitting on a huge rock, staring at the rising sun. When the sun rose, the red glow of the sun shone on the 3 of them. Qin Wenyan sat in the center while Mo Qingqing and Qing sat on his left and right respectively. They quietly leaned against him, enjoying this rare moment of tranquility. How beautiful! Mo Qingqing's eyes were filled with sweetness. 4 cultivators at Qin Wentian's level, it was extremely easy for them to see any beautiful scenery. It was just that for cultivators, their thirst for strength surpassed everything else. How many people would have the leisure time to do so? Most probably, only those with love in their hearts would be willing to go out with their companions to enjoy the scenery. Although Mo Qingqing's strength was growing stronger and stronger, in truth, she missed the days when she was young. Back in Chu, she was acquainted with Qin Wenyan. They were in love, sweet and tranquil. After that, when they came to the Immortal Realms, Qin Wenyan would be gone for many years at a time. Although she understood Qin Wenyan, who wouldn't want the love of their heart to be by their side. This time around, she was truly very happy that Qin Wenyan was willing to accompany them on a sightseeing tour. What's even more beautiful is my mood. Qin Wenyan gently smiled. Sightseeing was more about the people accompanying him. If he came out alone or with someone he wasn't familiar with, he naturally wouldn't be in such a mood. Mo Qingqing nodded her head lightly in Qin Wentian's embrace. If it wasn't for Qin Wenyan accompanying her, no matter how beautiful the scenery was, how would she have the mood to enjoy it? Qin Wenyan saw that Qing'er didn't have any reaction. He lowered his head and glanced at the beauty in his embrace. And with this glance, Qin Wenyan felt his heart trembling. He saw a drop of tears at the corner of Qing'er's eyes. Under the illumination of the morning sun, the tears were sparkling and translucent, like flawless gems. However, it wasn't that Qing'er was unhappy. On her cold face, a satisfied and warm smile could be seen, filled with boundless tenderness. Qingqing, I'm sorry. Qin Wenyan blamed himself in his heart. Only now did he know how much these two ladies wanted to be together with him. Even if it was such a simple moment of companionship, they still cherished it so much. Qin Wendian lowered his head and lightly kissed Qing'er's lips. Qing'er stared at him in a daze as she blinked. She didn't resist, allowing Qin Wendian to kiss her lips. "Aya!" A cry of surprise interrupted the scene. Qin Wendian inclined his head, only to see Qing'er's face was flushed red to the point where even her neck was flushed red. Qin Wendian felt a little depressed as he stared at Mo Qingqing, only to see Mo Qingqing smiling mischievously. "Do you want me to step back?" "Qingqing." Qing'er rolled her eyes. "Qing'er, do you think I should punish this lass Qingqing?" Qin Wendian stared at Qing'er as he asked. This lass was too despicable, he had to punish her according to the clan's rules. Qing'er nodded her head. Upon seeing the mischievous smile on Qin Wendian's face, she stood up and prepared to flee. However, how could she escape? Qin Wendian pulled her into his embrace as a crisp smacking sound rang out. Qing'er's face instantly turned red from embarrassment. Qin Wendian was even more shameless than Qing'er earlier. This lecherous fellow actually slapped her on the buttocks. Not only that, he even did it in front of Qing'er. Not bad. Qin Wendian mumbled in his heart. Another smacking sound rang out as Qin Wendian shamelessly stated, "Qingqing, if you are disobedient in the future, this will be the clan's rules." At this moment, Qing'er was dumbfounded. How could this fellow be like this? Would he do the same to her in the future? Upon thinking of this, Qing'er felt her entire body heating up as she felt incomparably shy. "Elder sister Qing'er." Qingqing turned her pleading gaze onto Qing'er, only to see Qing'er turning her head and running away. "I didn't see anything." "Do you still dare to be naughty?" Qin Wendian laughed as he stared at Qingqing. Qingqing's face was so red that it seemed as though water would drip out at any moment. She hurriedly shook her head. "Qingqing, that's good." Qin Wendian had a satisfied smile on his face. He hugged Qingqing and kissed her on the lips. He, Qin Wendian, couldn't be biased. He, Qin Wendian, would naturally treat everyone equally. Mo Qingqing also set aside her shyness and passionately responded to Qin Wendian. Qing'er turned her head and smiled when she saw this scene. With a wave of her hand, a curtain of light drifted up, blocking the space where Qin Wendian and Qingqing were at. With some shyness on her face, she walked down alone, allowing Qin Wendian to carry out the clan's rules properly. Spring passed and autumn came, time flowed by. The city of ancient emperors shook the entire immortal realms as more and more good fortune appeared. In fact, even the inheritance of a second Tao element appeared in the city of ancient emperors. It was unknown how many characters were fighting for good fortune in the city of ancient emperors, preparing to defeat everyone in the world and embrace this dazzling era. However, there were people who seemed to have forgotten about the conflicts in the world. They only wanted to accompany their beauties, touring the beautiful sceneries of the world. In the blink of an eye, several years passed. Qin Wendian and the others already came to an immortal city in the southern regions of the immortal realms and had already stayed here for several months. There was no other reason but because the environment of this immortal city was extremely beautiful. There were mountains and rivers, as well as many immortal lakes. At this moment, there was an immortal lake, and there were many dragon boats floating on the lake. There were also many pavilions standing on the lake, and there were beauties playing the zither and dancing. There were also young masters reciting poems and painting. It was a leisurely and carefree scene, and it was like a paradise. There were few conflicts in the world, and there was only a poetic and picturesque scene. On one of the elegant dragon boats, there were several maidens rowing. At the bow of the boat, a figure leisurely reclined there, admiring the scenery before him. Beside him, there were two empire-toppling beauties feeding him fruits. These two beauties were all supreme beauties and had a transcendent aura, causing the maidens rowing the boat to sneak glances over, staring at the young man lying there. She didn't know where this fellow got his good fortune, to actually have two supreme beauties serving him. Beauties were as common as the clouds in the immortal lake, but these maidens had never seen such beautiful maidens before. Yet, this fellow seemed to be enjoying himself. How could he bear to have two beauties serving him? How detestable. Qingqing, are you tired? Do you want me to serve you? Qin Wenyan laughed evilly as he stared at Qingqing. Tir, who was at the side, smiled. Right now, she was no longer as cold as before when she was beside Qin Wenyan. She would smile more often, unless there were outsiders around. I'm not tired. Qingqing glared at Qin Wenyan. How would she dare to say that she was tired? Ever since that day, if she dared to antagonize Qin Wenyan, this fellow would punish her according to the clan rules. But sadly, her strength was far inferior compared to Qin Wenyan, and she had no way to resist. During these years, she had always been afraid of Qin Wenyan. Qingqing, you are so good to me. Qin Wenyan shamelessly spoke. Mo Qingqing's face was filled with black lines, but her heart was still filled with warmth. If she could be like this for the rest of her life, she would be willing to serve him forever. Chapter 1487. Qingya, since Qingqing doesn't want it, I'll serve you then. Qin Wenyan turned his gaze to Qingya. But before Qingya could say anything, he directly got up and sat behind Qingya, allowing her to lean into his embrace. After that, he began to massage Qingya's shoulders. I don't want it either. Qingya replied. Qin Wenyan smiled. It's fine, Qingya, there's no need for you to understand me. Mo Qingqing stared hatefully at this fellow. Who understood him? He clearly wanted to take advantage of her elder sister Qingya. However, Qingya didn't say anything and allowed Qin Wenyan to do whatever he wanted. Under the ravaging hands of Qin Wenyan, her body softly leaned into Qin Wentian's embrace. Qin Wentian's hands also became more obedient, quietly hugging her. After that, he pulled Mo Qingqing over and hugged the two beauties as he smiled. Such a scene, I only envy the Mandarin ducks, not the immortals. The dragon boat entered the lake and floated down with the flow of the river. A light breeze gusted by, and under the warm sunlight, it felt even more comfortable. I wonder how things are in the city of ancient emperors now. Qingya spoke in a low voice as though reminding Qin Wenyan. Right now, the experts of the immortal realms were all gathered in the city of ancient emperors, yet they seemed to stand aloof from worldly affairs, roaming the world. Although she loved such a life, she was afraid that she would delay Qin Wentian's cultivation. Qingya, when have I ever delayed my cultivation? Qin Wenyan was long connected with the hearts of the two ladies. How could he not understand the meaning behind Qingya's words? Qingya nodded. She naturally believed in Qin Wenyan. After roaming for a day, the two of them returned to an inn in the city. There were only 3 people in the inn, Qin Wenyan and his 2 companions. When they decided to stay in the city for a period of time, Qin Wenyan directly bought the entire inn. To him, this was merely a drop in the ocean. In the most elegant courtyard of the inn, resplendent astral energy cascaded down, landing on Qin Wentian's room. Cultivation was also a cultivation of the heart. In the city of ancient emperors, he knew that he wouldn't be able to comprehend more. Hence, he abandoned the temptation of obtaining good fortune and brought his loved ones to roam the world. It wasn't that he had given up on his cultivation, it was just to change his method of comprehending the world. During these years, he traversed rivers and lakes, he traversed snowy mountains and seas of flowers, he observed the sunrise and sunset of the world, and comprehended the heavens and earth. Although it couldn't be said that he would gain enlightenment every moment, there would be times when he would feel a sense of enlightenment in his heart. Naturally, this was far from enough for him to break through to the next level. He didn't force it, he chose to let nature take its course. In this world, what was the purpose of cultivation? It was to roam the world, to be free and unfettered. Right now, wasn't he the same? With the heavens and earth in his heart, his state of mind was incomparably calm. Although he understood that this was only temporary, as long as he was in the immortal realms, he would never be able to avoid the tempest of the immortal realms. In Mo Qingqing's room, she was also cultivating. But at this moment, she stopped because Qingya had arrived. Elder sister Qingya. Mo Qingqing welcomed Qingya into the room. Is he not in? Qingya asked in a light voice. He's cultivating in his own room. Mo Qingqing replied. Elder sister Qingya, that fellow bullied you again today. We have to think of a way to deal with him. Qingya shook her head. No. Elder sister Qing'e, you are feeling heartache for that fellow again. Qingqing gently laughed. The more soft-hearted you are, the more he would bully you. Who's talking bad about me behind my back? Qin Wenyan laughed as he walked in. He stared at Mo Qingqing. Qingqing, I'm preparing to punish you according to the clan's rules. You dare? Mo Qingqing hid behind Qing'e. Why wouldn't I dare to use the clan's rules on my own wife? Qin Wenyan laughed as he stepped forward, grabbing towards Mo Qingqing. Elder sister Qing'e. Mo Qingqing pleaded. Seeing Qing'e standing in front of him, Qin Wenyan laughed mischievously. Qing'e, are you preparing to punish Qingqing according to the clan's rules? Although you haven't married into my family yet, in my heart, you are already my wife. I can naturally use the clan's rules on you. Qing'e naturally knew what the clan's rules Qin Wenyan was referring to. Her countenance was filled with shyness, incomparably beautiful. You better look for Qingqing. Qing'e's voice rang out, betraying Mo Qingqing without any trace of politeness. Sister Qing, Mo Qingqing directly grabbed Qing'e and pushed her towards Qin Wenyan when she saw Qing'e dodging. Qing'e, you are the one who delivered yourself to my doorstep. Qin Wenyan hugged Qing'e's soft and frail body, staring at her blushing face. His heart was like a monkey, and he directly kissed her. Mo Qingqing smiled when she saw this scene. Elder sister Qing'e, I will sleep in your room today. After speaking, she directly slipped out of the room. Qing'e blinked as she stared in astonishment at the departing Mo Qingqing. She was going to sleep in her room? What did she mean by that? Upon thinking of this, Qing'e's face instantly turned even redder as her heartbeat quickened. Their lips parted. Qin Wenyan stared at the dumbfounded expression on Qing'e's face as a hint of gentleness flashed in his eyes. Qin Wentian's hands supported Qing'e's buttocks, causing Qing'e's body to tremble slightly. After which, Qin Wenyan carried her up and placed her on the soft and beautiful bed. Lying there, she stared at Qin Wenyan in a daze. At this moment, how could Qing'e not know that she had been tricked? Qingqing had actually colluded with this fellow to bully her. However, upon seeing the gentleness in Qin Wentian's eyes, she slowly closed her eyes. She had long prepared herself for this. If Qin Wentian wanted it, she naturally wouldn't reject him. Staring at the cold, goddess-like figure in front of him, Qin Wenyan gently took off her clothes. Staring at her flawless skin, his heart was filled with boundless warmth. Qing'e. Qin Wenyan wanted to say something, but he only saw Qing'e stretching out her finger and placing it on her lips, preventing him from speaking. Her beautiful eyes were still closed, but the redness on her face gradually spread. Qin Wenyan didn't say anything more. He bent down and gently kissed Qing'e's face, lips, and that flawless skin. Feeling the trembling of Qing'e's body, Qin Wenyan treasured her even more. In the quiet room, there were no honeyed words, only endless tenderness. There was no need for them to speak, yet it was as though they understood each other's thoughts. Everything happened naturally. Outside the room, in the courtyard, Mo Qingqing inclined her head and stared at the stars in the sky. A sweet smile could be seen on her face. Finally, another matter in her heart has been resolved. During these years, they roamed the immortal realms. Although she and Qing'e were always by Qin Wentian's side, Qin Wenyan and Qing'e actually didn't have that level of relationship. Hence, during the journey, Qin Wenyan would often spend the night in their room. They naturally wouldn't mention such a shameful matter. She and Qing'e were like sisters and were both females. She naturally could guess some of Qing'e's thoughts. However, Qing'e's personality was just like that. It was impossible for her to take the initiative to mention such matters. Also, Qin Wenyan was deeply in love with Qing'e. Although he would tease her, he had always respected her and didn't do anything to Qing'e. Hence, there has always been an awkward situation. The man had feelings for the woman, the concubine had feelings for the man. Clearly, both of them had some thoughts but they couldn't break through. Hence, she could only help them, creating an opportunity for them. Turning her head and glancing at the room, there was no movement at all. Mo Qingqing smiled lightly, the smile on her face growing increasingly radiant. Sometimes she would have a wild wish. If the three of them could be together forever, How beautiful would that be? Naturally, she also knew that this was merely a wild wish. Qin Wenyan never forgot to cultivate during the journey. She knew that he would return sooner or later, fighting for supremacy in the immortal realms. Her man could be as gentle as water, and could also look down on the world with disdain. Time was like a dream. Ever since Qin Wenyan left the city of ancient emperors, it has already been 30 years. 30 years to the immortal realms was too short. To those lofty characters like Wu Xiu, it was even shorter. A single session of closed-door seclusion would be enough. However, these 30 years to Qing'er and Mo Qingqing was too long, too beautiful, like a lifetime. In a city in the Taihua immortal dynasty in the eastern regions of the immortal realms, there were snowflakes drifting about year-round. It was beautiful and romantic. Amidst the white snow, there were two beautiful young ladies building a snowman. They were giggling as though they were discussing something. After the snowman was built, one of the young ladies stared in the distance. She smiled and called out, "Elder Sister Qing'er, Elder Sister Qingqing, do you guys think this looks like Master?" Qing'er and Mo Qingqing walked over. When they saw that the snowman did resemble Qin Wenyan, they couldn't help but to smile. "Yes, very much so." "Am I that ugly?" Qin Wenyan rubbed his nose. He walked over as well as he spoke in a depressed manner. "Master is the most handsome." A young lady had a radiant smile on her face. She was about 15 or 16 years of age and was extremely lively and adorable. She referred to Qin Wenyan as Master, but referred to Qing'er and Qingqing as elder sisters. "Elder Sister Jian, don't you think so?" The young lady glanced at a young lady around 18 years of age as she asked. Master's wife is the most beautiful fairy in the world. Master is naturally the most handsome man in the world as well." Jian laughed. "Jian, Jiran, you guys truly have good judgment." Qin Wenyan praised. Mo Qingqing rolled her eyes and teased, "Your skin is really thick. Could it be that my Qing'er and Qingqing aren't the most beautiful fairies in the world?" Qin Wenyan laughed. Jian and Jiran were a pair of sisters, both orphans. A few years ago, when the two sisters went out to play, they met Qin Wenyan and the others. Seeing that the two sisters were adorable, Qing'er and Qingqing asked them to bring them to a place to stay. However, they didn't expect that after witnessing the sisters' entire family being annihilated, Qingqing and Qing'er were kind-hearted and decided to take them in. Hence, the three of them stayed in this city for several years. "Master's wife is naturally the most beautiful." Jiran giggled. Qin Wenyan and Qing'er also laughed. At this moment, Qin Wenyan inclined his head and stared at the sky as he furrowed his brows. After which, Qing'er also furrowed her brows. Qin Wenyan bitterly smiled and shook his head. He then spoke to Qing'er and Qingqing. "Qing'er, Qingqing, do you guys still want to continue playing? We might have to return." "Let's return." Qing'er smiled at Qin Wenyan. After accompanying them for so many years, she was already very satisfied. Mo Qingqing also smiled and nodded her head. Master's wife, are you guys going to leave?" Jian started when she heard their conversation. She inclined her head and asked, Master's wife, will you guys abandon Jiran?" Jiran's voice was somewhat downcast. They knew that Qin Wenyan was here to play. Back then when they first met, they were the ones who led the way for Qin Wenyan. "Silly lass." Qing'er and Mo Qingqing rubbed their heads as they replied, "Of course not. Are Jian and Jiran willing to leave with us?" "Both of us are willing." The two girls smiled radiantly as they nodded their heads heavily. However, when they saw so many experts descending from the sky, they started to panic. The might of these people engulfed the heavens and earth, incomparably terrifying, enveloping the entire city. It was as though they were here for their master and master's wife. Chapter 1488. Qin Wenyan inclined his head and stared at the experts in the air. There was actually a group of immortal kings among them, and there were even peak-stage immortal kings among them. Clearly, this wasn't an ordinary power, it wasn't something a city could produce. In addition, they were here for them. In that case, It was very clear where they came from. The Taihua immortal dynasty. To think that the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom would come to my dynasty. Why didn't you send us a greeting? My dynasty would have received you well. As expected, the eyes of one of the old men gleamed with a golden light, landing on Qing. Clearly, he knew of Qing'er's identity, which was why he came here. Qing'er's expression was cold. She didn't say anything. The Taihua immortal dynasty had an alliance with the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom, and they had launched an immortal adjudication against the Evergreen Kingdom before. Clearly, they didn't come with good intentions and were here to capture her. Brother Qin came from afar, bringing a beauty along with you. How envious. That old man then turned to Qin Wenyan and smiled. Today, we just happened to pass by this place and learned that the two of you came from. Hence, we specially came here to invite Brother Qin and Princess to our dynasty for a gathering. Invite? Qin Wenyan smiled. Sending a group of immortal kings to invite them? In addition, there were even several peak stage immortal kings. Such a lineup was only lacking an immortal emperor. There's no need for that. I'm used to being idle and will naturally enjoy myself. There's no need to trouble all of you. Qin Wenyan smiled. It's rare for Brother Qin and Princess to come to our dynasty. If we don't show our hospitality, how can our hearts be at ease? Brother Qin and Princess, please follow me. That old man continued. Although his tone was polite, his expression was filled with arrogance. I said there's no need for that. Did you not understand? Qin Wentian's eyes flashed as he coldly spoke. The expressions of the experts in the air also turned cold. That old man continued, Brother Qin, please don't make things difficult for us. The snowy scenery of the immortal city is like a paradise on earth. I don't want to destroy this scene. Qin Wentian spoke. He has long formed a grudge with the Taihua immortal dynasty and could have directly killed them. However, after spending so many years here, his heart was at peace and there were also Jian and Ji Ran beside him. Hence, he didn't want to start a massacre and told these people to scram. After hearing about the Demon God Mountain, you broke through to the mid-stage of the Immortal King realm. As expected, you are much more confident now. The eyes of the peak stage Immortal King in the lead gleamed with immortal light, unexcelled in the world. His understanding of Qin Wenyan was still at the Demon God Mountain. Indeed, after the battle on the Demon God Mountain, Qin Wenyan vanished without a trace. After that, there were people who discovered his traces in the Eastern Tomb Immortal City in the central regions. From then on, Qin Wentian's name vanished. The one who appeared in the City of Ancient Emperors was the Saber-Sword Immortal King. How would these people know of Qin Wentian's current strength? With such a powerful group of experts here, it could be said that they were giving Qin Wenyan face. After speaking up to here, Qin Wenyan knew that it was impossible for him to not start a massacre. He involuntarily asked, I didn't reveal my identity at all along the way. How did you guys find me? The three of them roamed the immortal realms for 30 years and had never revealed their names before. They also rarely made a move, staying low profile in this immortal city, yet they were still discovered. The other party glanced at Jian and Ji Ran who were beside Qin Wenyan. He then smiled, these two little brats you saved, their old ancestor was a member of my dynasty. But because he violated the rules of the dynasty, he was killed and the city lord of the Taihua immortal dynasty ordered him to confiscate their properties. However, he discovered that the auras of the three of you were extraordinary and his immortal sense couldn't see through you. Seeing that the two of you were pitiful, he decided to let you guys off. Not long ago, I actually learned that the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom and her future son-in-law came to my Taihua immortal dynasty. The expressions of Yen and Ji Ran drastically changed when they heard this. Since young, they came from an extraordinary background and naturally knew a little about it. It was because the old ancestor had outstanding talent and was a member of the dynasty. When a person achieved the Tao, even his chickens and dogs would ascend to the heavens. However, they didn't expect that the one who destroyed his family was actually the Taihua immortal dynasty. Even if the old ancestor was in the wrong, why did he kill my entire family? Ji Yan's eyes instantly turned red as tears flowed down her cheeks. Back then, she wasn't young anymore and understood some things. But now that she learned the truth, it was actually so cruel. You guys did something you shouldn't have done, you naturally deserve death. The two of you are able to stay together with Princess Qing? It's truly a blessing. Come with me. The person from the dynasty calmly spoke, like a command. So this is the case. Qin Wenyan sighed silently in his heart. Master's wife. Ji Ran also instantly cried when she thought of the tragic deaths of her family members. Her gaze then turned to Qin Wenyan and the others. Qin Wenyan gently patted the heads of the two maidens. After that, he inclined his head and stared at the air. Since this is the case, there's no need for you two to leave. The expressions of the experts in the air stiffened as cold smiles appeared on their faces. That peak-stage immortal king in the lead laughed uproariously. I've long heard that Qin Wenyan is extraordinary. It's just that rumors can't be trusted completely. Right now in the city of ancient emperors, experts are as common as the clouds and countless supreme geniuses of the immortal realms are heading there to contend against them. You can also be considered an extraordinary character and are famous in the eastern regions of the immortal realms. To think that you actually chose to stay in this city for so many years. Most probably, you must have been roaming the world during these years. You are truly not as good as your reputation. After speaking, he waved his hand as a terrifying might bore down from the sky. A group of immortal kings descended from the air. After so many years of peace, it's about time for me to return. Qin Wenyan mumbled. He inclined his head and stared at the sky as a towering sword intent radiated from his eyes, penetrating through the void. In just an instant, a scream of misery rang out. An immortal king's eyes were filled with blood as his body was penetrated by the sword intent. After that, he fell from the sky. Qin Wenyan stood there, holding onto Ji Ran and Jian's hands. A formless energy enveloped Qing and Mo Qingqing as they slowly rose up into the air. Everywhere his gaze passed by, screams of misery rang out. Numerous immortal kings directly fell from the sky. Even a single gaze from Qin Wenyan couldn't withstand it. Boom. The expressions of the peak-stage immortal kings in the air instantly turned incredibly unsightly to behold. The battle hasn't even started and so many experts had already fallen. Even for mid-stage immortal kings, they couldn't withstand it. How could Qin Wenyan be so powerful with just a single glance? Qin Wenyan dragged the maidens along as he slowly rose into the air. A divine glow radiated from him. He was like a divinity, unexcelled in this world. The expert in the lead unleashed his law domain. The peak-stage immortal kings all acted as well. In an instant, chaos ensued as everything below was reduced to dust. Qin Wenyan turned his gaze towards one of them. With just a single glance, that immortal king only felt that Qin Wenyan's eyes were the only thing left in this world. After that, that immortal king's eyes transformed into an unparalleled sword intent that slashed through the sky. That immortal king roared in rage and retreated explosively, even closing his eyes. But it was useless. The towering sword intent still slashed towards him. Peak stage immortal king was still the same, unable to withstand a single strike. How can this be possible? The other experts trembled. They turned and wanted to flee, but how could they escape? Numerous figures fell from the air. A group of immortal kings from the Taihua immortal dynasty fell one after another. In just a few breaths of time, all of them had fallen to the ground. Only one of them was still alive. His cultivation base was crippled and he stared fixedly at the rising figures in the air. There was only despair and terror on his face, a fear that came from the depths of his soul. How many years has it been since the appearance of the demon god mountain? Only tens of years have passed. At that time, Qin Wenyan was only at the mid-stage of the immortal king realm. How could he be so terrifying to such an extent in such a short period of time? They felt that they had already placed enough importance on this matter. The immortal kings descended, wanting to bring Qin Wenyan and Princess Qing to the Taihua immortal dynasty. However, The ending was actually so tragic. Qin Wenyan didn't even need to act. He merely glanced at them and destroyed them all. In this era where experts were contending for supremacy in the city of ancient emperors, Qin Wenyan was still roaming the world. However, in just a short period of tens of years, how could he be so powerful? I'll spare your life. Tell the Taihua immortal dynasty that I, Qin, have something to do today and won't disturb you. In the future, if there's a chance, I will personally pay a visit. A voice rang out from the air, causing his heart to tremble. His heart was like dead ashes, filled with incomparable despair. He only felt that the ground was extremely cold, extremely cold. The people from afar all rushed over. When they saw the ruins and the corpses of the experts on the ground, their hearts all trembled. When they inclined their heads, Qin Wenyan and his group had already vanished. There were some who were acquainted with Qin Wenyan and his companions before. Just from their demeanor, they could tell that the three of them were extraordinary. A handsome young man with two supreme beauties, it was obvious with a single glance that they were from a major power that came out to sightsee. However, they didn't expect them to be so terrifying to such an extent. From their conversation earlier, they knew that these people who were killed were all from the Taihua immortal dynasty. Yet, they couldn't even block a single attack from them. After a long time, a terrifying might bore down on the city. A supremely powerful expert appeared, landing before the only remaining peak stage immortal king. He checked the injuries of the immortal king and knew that his cultivation base was crippled. There was no way for him to turn the situation around. He fed the immortal king a medicinal pill, causing him to sober up a little. What's going on? So many people were sent out, yet they couldn't even capture a single Qin Wenyan? Could it be that they sent reinforcements? That person asked. The immortal king on the ground trembled. There's only one person, just a single glance. Qin Wenyan is invincible. My dynasty has to eliminate him no matter what. The hearts of those who heard this trembled violently. Just one person, just a single glance? What's his cultivation base at? That person asked. Peak stage immortal king. The injured immortal king replied. With a rumbling sound, the aura of the expert before him gushed forth. A peak stage immortal king? The immortal foundation expert of the adjudication hall back then was actually already a peak stage immortal king? How many years has it been? We have to eliminate him as soon as possible. Remember this. If not, if he matures, our dynasty would be in danger. That person seemed to have yet to recover from the shock and fear he felt earlier. Upon hearing this, the heart of the injured immortal king trembled. Was this young man really so terrifying? He actually caused a peak stage immortal king to say that the dynasty would be in danger? Seems like this young man has already matured. Chapter 1489. In the Evergreen Kingdom, Qin Wenyan's group of 5 returned. They had been out for 30 years, roaming the world. During these 30 years, Qin Wenyan let go of everything and lived a carefree life. He only had beauties by his side. Occasionally, he would sit down and cultivate his insights, not forcing himself. His state of heart was incomparably calm as he tempered himself in the world of mortals. During these 30 years, although he seemed to be playing around, he was also cultivating his heart, doing as he pleased. He also gained different insights into the laws of heaven and earth, and his state of heart was no longer comparable to the past. Several years ago, he successfully broke through and entered the peak stage of the immortal king realm. However, he didn't care about it at all. Until now, when he returned to the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. Chongqing the Great was still absent. Right now, the city of ancient emperors had gathered experts from all over the world. Who else could be as carefree as Qin Wenyan, giving up the good fortune in the city of ancient emperors and roaming the world instead? Qin's residence was as quiet as ever. After they returned, they immediately went to pay a visit to Princess Chongping, who was the closest to them. Upon seeing that Qin Wenyan and Qing had returned, Princess Chongping and the Scarlet Eye Marquis naturally welcomed them personally. Right now, Princess Chongping and the Scarlet Eye Marquis could no longer see through Qin Wenyan. When they thought of how famous Qin Wenyan was, they couldn't help but to sigh. Thinking back to the past, when Qin Wenyan first came to the royal palace of the empire, he was still a junior with a low cultivation base. He broke through here, and at that time, he was still jealous of those juniors with nobility. But now, those juniors who once fought against Qin Wenyan were still juniors. As for Qin Wenyan, who would still dare to look at him with the same gaze they used to look at him in the past. If this fellow could become an immortal emperor in the future, he would be a living legend. Who are these two little fellows? Princess Chongping asked when she saw Ji Yan and Ji Ran. "Aunt, these are Ji Yan and Ji Ran. We met them outside and their backgrounds are pitiful. Now, they are Wentian's disciples. If Wentian and I leave, the two of them and Qingqing will be taken care of." Ting spoke in a light voice, her words causing Princess Chongping to start. "You just returned and you want to leave again? Princess, I'm sure you know the situation in the immortal realms. Although it seems calm on the outside, a terrifying storm is brewing. Princess, the city of emperors is the immortal realms, the city. But sooner or later, the immortal realms in the immortal realms, the city of emperors. We have already lived for 30 years, so we, Qin, we, Wenyan, Qing, and Qing will, Qing heir as well? Princess Qing going. I don't wish for her to go. It's just that when this lass heard that I wanted to go, she wanted to go as well. I'm a little worried, but I can't change her mind. Aunt, can you help me persuade this lass? Qin Wenyan bitterly smiled and shook his head. He held his hand and spoke in a melodious voice. Wherever you go, I will go. Princess Chongping's eyes flashed with a bright light when she heard the way Qin Wenyan addressed her. She smiled. You even changed the way you address me. Seems like the good things are about to happen. Qing Wentian's words aren't without logic. Why don't you stay behind and accompany me? The city of ancient emperors is too lively now. Don't you prefer peace and quiet? The commotion in the city of ancient emperors was too great. Ordinary immortal kings wouldn't dare to head there. There was basically no place for them to stand, and they had no way to contend against those people. Then is right. Qing, I have too many enemies in the city of ancient emperors. If I bring you along, it would be inconvenient instead. Qin Wentian spoke. Qin coldly glanced at Qin Wentian, causing Qin Wentian's heart to soften. After that, he heard Qin speaking. I will return to my sect to look for my senior sister and see if she's willing to accompany me. Qin Wentian could only nod. There should be many experts under GD, and she shouldn't be like him, who had enemies all over the world. In addition, Qin had two identities. She was the beloved disciple of GD and the daughter of Chongqing the Great. No matter who wanted to touch her, they would have to think twice before doing so. She was much safer compared to him. In that case, I will head to the city of ancient emperors first. After you return to your sect, remember to bring your senior sister along with you. Don't act alone. Qin Wentian spoke. When Qin heard Qin Wentian's words, she coldly stared at him, as though she was filled with resentment. Staring at her cold countenance, Qin Wentian grabbed Qing's slender waist, pulling her into his embrace, causing Qing's body to tremble. Princess Chongping and the Scarlet Eye Marquis both widened their eyes. After that, they saw to their shock that Qing resisted lightly, but to no avail. Hence, she allowed Qin Wentian to do as he pleased. Qing, I understand your feelings. It's not that I'm ruthless, but I've offended too many people and powers. I'm doing this for you. Qin Wentian gently spoke. Qing nodded lightly. I'll listen to you. But if anything happens to you, I naturally won't live alone. Silly lass, with you and Qingqing around, how can I bear to let anything happen to me? Qin Wentian gently stroked her hair. After that, he turned to Qingqing. Qingqing, if I'm not around, you have to cultivate well. You have to be careful too. Qingqing smiled as she stared at Qin Wentian. They hadn't been apart for 30 years. How could she bear to part with him? However, a radiant smile could still be seen on her face. She didn't want Qin Wentian to worry. And I'll leave first. Little lass Qing, help me persuade him again. Qin Wendian stared at Princess Chongping as he spoke. So anxious. Princess Chongping was startled. They just returned and they were already leaving? I've lived in peace for 30 years. Now, it's time for things to get urgent. Qin Wendian smiled. Princess Chongping didn't try to persuade him any further. She merely added, I was born in a grand era, yet I'm still mediocre. Wendian, your talent is outstanding, you should pursue the path of greatness, contending against the heroes of the world. It's just that safety is the most important. Even if it's not for myself, I understand. Qin Wendian smiled. He then turned to Jin and Ji Ran. You guys take good care of teacher's wife, understand? Don't worry, master. Ji Ran nodded. Little lass. Qin Wendian rubbed their heads. After that, his silhouette flashed as he directly departed. Even though Qing and Qingqing were reluctant to part with him, he still didn't turn back. Although 30 years to the immortal realms was a short period of time, to the stellar martial cultivators in the city of ancient emperors, these 30 years definitely weren't short at all. The rules of the city of ancient emperors changed. Good fortune descended from the heavens, Tao elements and inheritances descended from the heavens. During these 30 years, it was unknown how many experts were born. Some transformed, some grew stronger, and naturally, there were also many corpses. It was unknown how many famous immortal kings of the immortal realms had fallen in the city of ancient emperors. It was extremely rare for the immortal realms to experience such a period of 30 years. It was the same for the city of ancient emperors. According to the discussions of those who had lived for countless years, the transformation of the city of ancient emperors was a sign of the arrival of a brand new era. Extraordinary characters would be born in the immortal realms. This seemed to confirm the legend that an ancient emperor would be born in the Tiandao Sacred Academy. In addition to the appearance of the demon god mountain, the greater demons of the desolate mountains, and the devil cultivators from the myriad devil islands, everyone was clear that the sky of the immortal realms was about to change. At this moment, on a desolate mountain in the city of ancient emperors, two figures could be seen. One was a male and the other was a female. The male was tall and slender, exuding a sense of elegance. He calmly walked over, yet the sorrow in his eyes couldn't be masked. He sat on the mountain and in his embrace, there was a female in white. She was like a celestial maiden, with a poignant beauty. Her black hair had turned white and her countenance was pale as well, with traces of blood at the corner of her lips. I shouldn't have come to the city of ancient emperors. The male spoke in a light voice. His tone was so calm, as though there were no traces of emotions within. Fool. The female stretched out her slender fingers, gently stroking his face. She then spoke in a gentle voice. This place should have been a place you wanted to come to. The heroes of the world are all fighting for supremacy. How can you miss out? Cultivating beside me has always been a grievance to you. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have today. If you didn't meet me, you wouldn't have today's ending as well. You helped me, but I've implicated you. The young man spoke in a light voice. If it wasn't for me, your accomplishments might be even higher. As for my ending, being able to die in your embrace is already very beautiful. In this life of mine, what else do I have to be dissatisfied with? A beautiful smile could be seen on the pale face of the female, as though she was filled with happiness. But I've let you down. And now you have to die because of me. The young man spoke. You've never let me down. Also, in this great era, geniuses are everywhere. In the city of ancient emperors, how many heroes have turned into white bones? Since I'm fated to meet this calamity, it's already destined. The female still had a smile on her face. I'm tired, I have to leave now. You have to take care of yourself. After speaking, the female slowly closed her eyes as her aura gradually dissipated. However, her expression was calm and peaceful, as though she had passed away peacefully. The young man stared at the horizons. A gentle breeze blew past, causing sand to enter his eyes. Tears flowed down his face as he inclined his head and stared at the sky. Boundless runic light cascaded downwards, resembling the great Tao. These runic lights were all Tao elements that originated from the other immortal realms. A terrifying beam of light shot out from the eyes of the young man. He seemed to be able to see through everything, seeing through the heavens and earth. In an instant, the light from the great Tao landed in his eyes, transforming into countless runic inscriptions that flowed into him, causing his eyes to shine with a resplendent light, like a world of reincarnation. How laughable! Is this just another reincarnation cycle that I cultivated? The young man inclined his head and stared at the boundless void. His demeanor seemed to have changed, his entire person was changing. However, a mocking smile could be seen on his face. It was unknown if he was mocking others or mocking himself. If there were others here, they would surely sigh in admiration. This young man's cultivation base wasn't high, he was only at the mid-stage of the immortal king realm. His emperor's fate wasn't strong, but he actually comprehended a Tao element. Just like what the young man experienced, in the city of ancient emperors, there were countless people who rose up, obtaining good fortune and breaking through. Naturally, there were also experts who died. Who? The young man calmly spoke, his voice filled with indifference. He didn't even move. Behind him, a figure appeared. It was none other than Qin Wenyan. He has returned, he once again returned to the city of ancient emperors. When he saw the boundless light cascading downwards, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. There wasn't just a single Tao element that descended from the heavens. Also, they seemed to exist eternally in the city of ancient emperors, never dissipating. How could this world not change? During these 30 years, he left and roamed the immortal realms. With regards to his cultivation, he didn't know if it was right or wrong, good or bad. However, he didn't regret it. Everyone had their own path of cultivation. Back then, when he gave up the good fortune in the city of ancient emperors, it was his choice, his own path of cultivation. It's me. Qin Wenyan removed the mask of the saber-sword immortal king, revealing his true face. The eyes of the young man fluctuated, but it only lasted for an instant. He still didn't turn his head and calmly spoke. Back then, you and I participated in the test together. You obtained the top ranker, and as for the myriad incarnations, she chose me. Who would have thought that the world would change so much? The Dongshengshan Gate no longer exists. The Dongsheng Heaven Emperor spared no expense to kill you, and she died here. My condolences. Qin Wenyan was speechless. He didn't know what to say. He also didn't expect that when he met Hua Taishu again, the situation would be like this. My condolences have passed. Everything shall return to samsara. Hua Taishu calmly spoke. He kept the myriad incarnations immortal king's body, and with a flash of his silhouette, he soared up into the clouds. Chapter 1490. Qin Wenyan stared at the vanishing silhouette of Hua Taishu as he let out a long sigh. Back then, when the Dongsheng Heaven Emperor descended upon this particle world, that was the first time he and Hua Taishu met a major character of the immortal realms. Regardless of Eastern Sage, Bai Wuya, the Deep Flame Immortal King, or the Myriad Incarnations Immortal King, all of them were supreme existences at the peak. Bai Wuya's senior brother broke through to the Immortal Emperor realm. The Deep Flame Immortal King had long died in Bai Wuya's hands, the Eastern Sage Immortal Sect was destroyed, and the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor joined Old Devil Duo Tian. And now, the Myriad Incarnations Immortal King died in the city of ancient emperors. In the blink of an eye, a few hundred years had passed, the blue seas turned into mulberry fields. Maybe, only time would be able to bear witness to everything. No matter how outstanding a character was, in this cruel world of the martial Tao, who could remain lofty and lofty forever. With a wave of his hand, Qin Wenyan once again transformed into the saber-sword immortal king. His eyes flashed with incomparable determination. In this cruel world of cultivation, he had no way to control the world. Only by growing stronger would he be able to prevent tragedies from happening to him. Stepping out, Qin Wenyan stared at the Tao element descending from above as a myriad of emotions flashed in his heart. When he returned to the city of ancient emperors again, the emperor's fate he accumulated before had completely vanished. This should be the rule of the city of ancient emperors. Since you left and came back again, even if you have Emperor's fate, you would have to start from scratch. The city of ancient emperors 30 years later was much more lively compared to 30 years ago. Even in the desolate mountain ranges, immortal kings could be seen everywhere. All of them had different amounts of Emperor's fate behind them. 30 years could be considered a very short period of time, but to the city of ancient emperors, with so many experts gathered here, one could very well imagine how grand the situation was. Right now, not many people in the city of ancient emperors knew of him. When they saw that Qin Wenyan didn't have any Emperor's fate, their expressions were incomparably calm, and they couldn't even be bothered to glance at him. This should be a newcomer to the city of ancient emperors. If not, he would have at least some Emperor's fate. One must know that the person with the strongest amount of Emperor's fate in the city of ancient emperors could already directly absorb the light from the Tao elements. How terrifying would that be? Their eyes gleamed with a bright light, as though they could see through everything. As Qin Wenyan continued on his way, he could sense that the auras of the immortal kings in the city of ancient emperors were all extraordinary. Their auras were all filled with determination, and there were experts of all ages. Many of them were searching for treasured grounds and were sitting there to comprehend the Tao elements. The closer one was to the central area of the city of ancient emperors, the more experts there were. Characters with extraordinary Emperor's fate were also more common. The Tao elements here were more complete, and there were even more extraordinary characters gathered here. However, the more people there were, the more conflicts there would be. For the sake of Emperor's fate, for the sake of treasures, they would fight, kill, and plunder. Right now, everyone in the city of ancient emperors knew how strong Emperor's fate was. Battles, faith, worship, fear, all of these could strengthen one's Emperor's fate. If one could become famous in the city of ancient emperors, their Emperor's fate would be even more abundant. Over there, what a strong amount of Emperor's fate. Qin Wenyan turned his gaze in a certain direction. Over there, Emperor's fate could be seen soaring upwards. This pure and flawless Emperor's fate seemed to have undergone a transformation and was now shining with divine light. The Tao elements cascading down from the heavens and earth actually fused together with the Emperor's fate. When Emperor's fate was strong to a certain extent, it would actually have such an effect. It was simply shocking. Upon seeing this scene, Qin Wenyan's silhouette flashed as he sped towards that direction. Although it seemed to be within reach, in truth, the distance between them was extremely far. Over there, on the peak of an ancient mountain in the central Emperor city, a goddess-like figure stood there. Her entire body was flawless, and her skin was as fair as snow. There was a plum blossom imprint in the center of her brows, and in addition to the boundless Emperor's fate radiating from her, it caused people to involuntarily want to worship her. It's her. Qin Wenyan silently mused. He had seen this woman before. Back then when he fought against the Supreme Crown Prince, she was a supreme beauty from the nine-tailed demon fox race. Back then when he met her, her Emperor's fate was already incomparably strong. Who would have thought that now, her Emperor's fate had already reached such a terrifying level? Her Emperor's fate could even directly aid her in comprehending the Tao elements. Boom! At this moment, an incomparably thunderous sound rang out from afar. The entire space trembled. The earth trembled as rumbling sounds rang out unceasingly. Many people turned their gazes over only to see a supreme greater demon suddenly appearing in the air. His body was incomparably gigantic and was tens of thousands of meters tall, blotting out the sun. When he stepped out, everything was razed to flat ground. Rumbling sounds rang out as he directly moved over. His gigantic eyes stared at the nine-tailed demon fox maiden on the ancient mountain peak. Boundless golden light radiated from his gigantic body. He was like a golden devil. This was a greater demon from the desolate mountains. He coldly stared at the maiden as he spoke. You actually dared to kill my clansmen to obtain Emperor's fate? Demon Fox, I want you to serve me from now on. The maiden didn't pay any attention to him. It was like she didn't know that he had appeared. Her eyes were still closed, as though nothing in the world had anything to do with her. In the surroundings, more and more experts gathered here, as though they wanted to watch a good show. Boom! A thunderous boom rang out in the air. That gigantic golden devil blasted out with his palm, blotting out the sun. In an instant, boundless golden light transformed into a prison of heaven and earth, capable of destroying everything. The maiden on the ancient mountain peak finally opened her eyes. Her eyes gleamed with an incomparably resplendent light as her flawless robes fluttered in the wind. Her eyes were incomparably terrifying, able to see through everything. Her gaze instantly penetrated through the gigantic eyes of the greater demon. Rumble! A terrifying rumbling sound could be heard. The gigantic palm continued to descend. However, its speed gradually slowed down. Finally, it came to a halt in the void. Its gigantic body was like a statue, frozen on the spot. Are you willing to be my slave and protect me for your entire life? The young woman suddenly spoke as though she was baffled. However, the gigantic body of the greater demon moved as he retracted his palms. His gigantic eyes gleamed with a demonic light as he nodded his head. I'm willing. Kneel down. The maiden's voice was extremely gentle, like the voice of a goddess. With a thunderous boom, that gigantic body of the greater demon knelt on the ground. If anyone dares to disturb my cultivation, kill them without mercy. The maiden coldly spoke. That powerful greater demon simply knelt there just like that, incomparably respectful as though he was completely subservient. How powerful! The hearts of everyone trembled when they stared at that goddess-like figure. All of them deeply felt that this maiden was invincible. With a single glance, a greater demon was subservient, being controlled and forced to kneel on the ground. After obtaining the Tao element's inheritance, she became even more terrifying. Many experts felt a sense of helplessness. Such a perfect and flawless maiden, even if she was a demon, they would still be willing to marry her. If they could obtain such a woman, their lives wouldn't have been in vain. However, the strength of this maiden made it so that no one dared to be disrespectful to her. Those who once disrespected her were all dead. A beautiful figure flashed over, appearing in the air. When she saw this scene, a look of helplessness appeared in her eyes. During these years, she had always treated this maiden as her rival, wanting to surpass her. However, she discovered that there was no hope at all. This vixen not only surpassed her in terms of looks and demeanor, her strength also caused her to feel despair. Just a single glance. If I fought against her, would I be able to withstand the might of a single glance? Su Qingyao mused. She herself was also a supreme beauty, but when compared to this woman before her, she was clearly inferior. Her beautiful eyes slowly turned over, staring at the experts in the surroundings. After that, her beautiful eyes froze there, stopping on a single person. This person had vanished for a total of 30 years, but the impression he gave her was too deep. Even after 30 years, she could still recognize him with a single glance. It was none other than the saber-sword immortal king. Qin Wendian seemed to have sensed something. He turned his gaze over and saw a beautiful face. It was actually none other than Su Qingyao, whom he had teased back then. What a coincidence! It has been many years since we last met. Fairy Qingyao, how have you been? Qin Wendian couldn't help but to smile when he saw Su Qingyao still in a daze. Upon seeing the teasing smile on Qin Wendian's face, Su Qingyao bit her lips and glared at Qin Wendian. When she saw that there was no emperor's fate behind Qin Wendian, she spoke. I didn't expect that you would actually flee the city of ancient emperors back then. Now that you have returned, could it be that you want revenge? Revenge? A look of interest flashed in Qin Wendian's eyes. He didn't feel that the defeat back then was something shameful. Not only for him, in truth, no one who had witnessed that battle felt that it was a humiliation for Qin Wendian. If not, after that battle, Qin Wendian's emperor's fate wouldn't have grown stronger instead. Defeating Huang Jiutian at the mid-stage of the immortal king realm and fighting against the supreme crown prince. If this was considered a humiliation, what about the geniuses in the city of ancient emperors? Seems like after Fairy Qingyao's cultivation base improved, you have already forgotten the lesson of the past. A teasing smile appeared on Qin Wendian's face. Su Qingyao stared at him and instantly thought back to how this bastard took advantage of her back then, caressing her body. Her expression instantly turned heavy. Initially, she didn't have any resentment towards Qin Wenyan and only wanted to tease him a little. She didn't expect this bastard to bring up the past again. Su Qingyao's cultivation had indeed improved. Today, 30 years later, she broke through from the mid-stage to the peak stage of the immortal king realm. From this, one could see that she didn't waste her time tempering herself in the city of ancient emperors. Lesson? Many immortal kings in the surroundings stared at Qin Wenyan. Some of them were puzzled. 30 years ago, many of them weren't in the city of ancient emperors and didn't know of the saber-sword immortal king. There were also quite a few people who saw the saber and sword on Qin Wentian's back as they gradually recalled the major event that happened 30 years ago in the city of ancient emperors. An expression of interest involuntarily appeared on their faces. Fairy Qin Yao, why don't we continue chatting about romance for 7 more days? This seat is filled with nostalgia for the 7 days we spent together in the past. Qin Wentian smiled when he saw Su Qingyao gritting her teeth. It's really him. The saber-sword immortal king has returned. Someone spoke in a low voice. Saber-sword immortal king? Who is he? There were some who didn't know. Su Qingyao's beautiful eyes turned cold as she stared at Qin Wenyan. This bastard was still as arrogant as before. He actually dared to say such frivolous words in public. No matter who you are, since you dare to speak to Fairy Qingyao in such a manner, slap yourself immediately. Just when Su Qingyao wanted to say something, a person walked out and blocked her path. He stared at Qin Wenyan as he coldly spoke, exuding incomparable arrogance. This scene caused the eyes of those who knew of what happened back then to widen as a look of mockery appeared on their faces. This was truly interesting, wanting the saber-sword immortal king to slap himself. Chapter 1491. Qin Wenyan had a mocking expression on his face. He couldn't help but to admit that being beautiful was an advantage. In addition, Su Qingyao wasn't merely beautiful. Right now, her cultivation base had already reached the peak stage of the immortal king realm. From this, one could see that her talent was extremely outstanding as well. Other than this, she also had a good background. For such a woman, there would naturally be many flower protectors. An example was the person who wanted to slap Qin Wenyan. Su Qingyao glanced at the person who walked out. She naturally knew who this person was. Although she didn't have any feelings for this person, she didn't hope for this person to antagonize the saber-sword immortal king. Su Qingyao knew that although this person's strength was extraordinary, it was simply courting death if he fought against the saber-sword immortal king. The saber-sword immortal king from 30 years ago wasn't someone he could afford to antagonize. In addition, Su Qingyao knew what sort of character the saber-sword immortal king was. There was nothing the saber-sword immortal king wouldn't dare to do. There's no need for you to interfere in my matters. Just leave this place. Su Qingyao reminded. Fairy Qingyao, you should understand my feelings for you. How can I allow others to humiliate you? This person's words were extremely rude and had a hint of disrespect in them. If he doesn't want to slap himself, I'll kill him myself. That immortal king spoke in arrogance. His eyes flickered with adoration when he stared at Su Qingyao, not concealing it at all. Su Qingyao's expression turned cold. She couldn't be bothered with this anymore. Since this is the case, do as you wish. That person smiled and nodded to Su Qingyao. After that, he turned to Qin Wenyan again. Did you not hear my words? Why are you not slapping yourself? As the sound of his voice faded, a dazzling light flashed in Qin Wentian's eyes, akin to lightning. In an instant, the heavens and earth changed color. In his eyes, only a pair of pupils remained. The resplendent sword slashed over, akin to a torrential sword river, unexcelled in the world. Impudent! He roared loudly as law might erupted forth from his body. He punched out, causing the entire space to tremble, wanting to destroy everything. However, the towering sword intent directly vanished, like it had never appeared before. His expression stiffened as a look of bewilderment appeared on his face. However, he only saw another beam of sword light flying over. He stared at the space he was in. He wasn't in the city of ancient emperors at all. He couldn't help but to snort coldly, "Illusory arts are just a minor Dao, how dare you bully me?" After saying that, he didn't attack again. But for the sake of caution, he still used his power of laws to protect his body. The torrential sword river slashed down, as though it was solid. Crisp sounds rang out. His body of laws was broken, and fresh blood splattered everywhere. When the sword landed, his body was directly split apart. He saw his body being split apart with his own eyes, and his entire body trembled. "It's fake. This is an illusion. This is clearly an illusion," he roared. The space around him returned to normal. Qin Wenyin was still standing before him, causing him to be in wild joy. As expected, this is an illusion, it's fake. However, at the next moment, a scream of agony rang out from his mouth. His body was truly split apart from the middle. His eyes widened explosively, almost popping out of their sockets as he died with a grievance. Silence, the surroundings were filled with silence. Numerous gazes landed on Qin Wenyin. From the start till the end, he didn't move at all. The spectators only saw a single glance, a single glance. After that, that immortal king roared in rage before he died, slain. This. Someone glanced at the nine-tailed demon fox on the mountain peak. Wasn't she the same as well? She stood there unmoving, and with a single glance, she caused a supremely powerful greater demon to submit. As for the saber-sword immortal king, with a single glance, he killed a peak-stage immortal king. The rumors are true. This saber-sword immortal king is truly terrifying. For those who came to the city of ancient emperors 30 years ago, they had heard of the saber-sword immortal king's name. But when they personally witnessed this battle, their hearts involuntarily trembled. The city of ancient emperors, a grand era. In the silent air, a voice suddenly rang out, causing many to sigh. That's right, the city of ancient emperors, a grand era. This was truly a grand era. This man didn't have any emperor's fate on him, but when many people looked at him with disdain, he only used a single glance to slay a peak-stage immortal king. How terrifying was this? Emperor's fate appeared behind Qin Wenyin, growing stronger and stronger, gleaming with a dazzling light, instantly surpassing many people here. Is this the him 30 years later? Su Qingyao sighed in her heart. Initially, she thought that after she broke through to the peak stage of the immortal king realm, she might be able to match up to this man's combat prowess. But from the looks of things now, she was still too far away. If she fought against the saber-sword immortal king, she most probably wouldn't be able to withstand a single strike. What's your current cultivation base? Su Qingyao stared at Qin Wenyin as she asked. Qin Wenyin had a smile on his face. He stared at Su Qingyao. Why? Is Fairy Qingyao willing to accompany this seat to chat about romance? At that time, this seat will have a good chat with Fairy Qingyao about cultivation realms. This bastard. Su Qingyao bit her lips. Back then when Qin Wenyin brought her away for 7 days, he didn't even touch her. At that time, she already knew that Qin Wenyin wasn't a lecherous fellow. He only wanted to tease and punish her. But now, he actually brought it up again, speaking to her in public. Was it because he found it interesting? After 30 years, you should have already broken through to the peak stage of the immortal king realm when you returned to the city of ancient emperors, right? If not, he is still in the city of ancient emperors and is even stronger than before. There would be no place for you here. You should be very clear about this point. Su Qingyao probed. Although she guessed that Qin Wenyin had already broken through to the peak stage of the immortal king realm, she still wanted to know the exact answer. There's no place for me here? Qin Wenyin mumbled. He naturally understood who Su Qingyao was referring to. Since you are so curious, let me tell you. I'm the same as you. As expected. Su Qingyao's heart trembled. Back then when the saber-sword immortal king was at the mid-stage of the immortal king realm, he could already fight against a group of immortal kings, defeating Huang Jiutian and the Yama king. Now that he has broken through to the peak stage, how strong was he exactly? However, would the him now be able to defeat that person? Her bright eyes stared at Su Qingyao. Su Qingyao spoke. During these 30 years, the changes in the city of ancient emperors are extremely great. Many good fortune appeared, and there are also Tao elements descending from the heavens. Everyone's strength is rapidly rising. Even if you have broken through now, he wouldn't remain stagnant. If you fight again, you might not be his opponent. I advise you to leave. Fairy Qingyao, are you worried about this seat? Qin Wendian smiled. Just like in the past, when he came to the city of ancient emperors, he was the saber-sword immortal king. He was no longer Qin Wendian. I'm worried about you? Su Qingyao rolled her eyes at Qin Wendian. I'm only reminding you. I'm afraid you might be too complacent and think that you can defeat the Yama King just because you broke through. You are improving, but others are also improving as well. Don't run away with your tail between your legs like before. Oh! An expression of interest appeared on Qin Wentian's face. How powerful was his eyes? They contained the will of truth, able to see through all illusions. Although Su Qingyao spoke to him in a malicious manner, he could clearly sense that she had no ill intentions towards him. If not, why would he be so polite to her? Pass a message to this seat. Tell the Yama King to scram over here and kneel before this seat to apologize. If not, this seat will cripple his cultivation. Qin Wendian inclined his head and stared at everyone as he spoke. Just a single sentence caused the hearts of countless people to tremble violently. Numerous incomparably sharp gazes shot over, staring at Qin Wendian. Yama King? Their hearts trembled, almost thinking that they had heard wrongly. However, given how powerful their hearing abilities were, it was impossible for them to be wrong. This person wanted the Yama King to scram over here and even wanted him to kneel and apologize? This is madness. Their hearts trembled as they stared at Qin Wendian in disbelief. Right now in the city of ancient emperors, who didn't know of the Yama King's name? In the city of ancient emperors where geniuses were as common as the clouds, if one were to say which characters they couldn't afford to antagonize, the Yama King would definitely be one of them. Su Qingyao's beautiful eyes froze as she stared unblinkingly at Qin Wendian. Was he returning the words that the Yama King had said to him back then to the Yama King? She frowned. You are just letting your emotions affect your decisions. You better think clearly before you speak. You have already cultivated to this level. Why must you disregard your own life for the sake of courage? Is this worth it? Qin Wendian stared at Su Qingyao in bewilderment. An expression of interest flashed in his eyes, causing Su Qingyao to glare at him fiercely. Back then, I spent 7 days talking about romance with Fairy Qingyao. Could it be that Fairy Qingyao has fallen in love with this seat? Qin Wendian had a strange look on his face. Fallen in love with you? Su Qingyao's face was filled with black lines. She glared at Qin Wendian. In that case, you can go and die. Qin Wendian laughed. He didn't care about Su Qingyao's cursing. He turned to the experts here and spoke. Everyone, you can go and spread the words of this seat. Tell the Yama King to scram to kneel in front of this seat and repent. Su Qingyao bit her lips lightly as she stared at Qin Wendian, thinking in her heart that this fellow must have gone crazy. The experts in the surroundings were all in an uproar. For those who have never heard of the saber-sword immortal king before, they were all wondering who this fellow was exactly. If the Yama King heard of this, would he still be alive? At this moment, the eyelashes of that beautiful figure who had been calmly standing on the mountain peak suddenly fluttered. After that, a pair of resplendent eyes opened as her robes fluttered in the wind. Her gaze slowly turned over and landed on Qin Wendian. She naturally recognized Qin Wendian. Back then when the saber-sword immortal king fought against the Yama King, she was at the side and personally witnessed that battle. Right now, the saber-sword immortal king has returned and domineeringly declared a challenge to the Yama King. She didn't say anything, her beautiful eyes slowly closed again. Qin Wendian also glanced over. He initially thought that the demons of the desolate mountains were all uncivilized and ruthless greater demons. He didn't expect that there would actually be a 9-tailed demon fox maiden who was so beautiful to such an extent. She was born a demon, yet she actually exuded a pure and holy aura, like a goddess. The news of the saber-sword immortal king wanting the Yama king to scram before him to kneel and repent instantly caused a huge commotion in the city of ancient emperors. Some people laughed it off after hearing this, silently mocking the saber-sword immortal king for not knowing the immensity of death. During these years, there were many such characters in the city of ancient emperors who wanted to challenge the strongest experts the moment they arrived, using their emperor's fate to shake the entire city of ancient emperors. However, there were also some people who knew about the battle 30 years ago. All of them were extremely interested as they sped towards the direction Qin Wenyan was in. After 30 years, was the saber-sword immortal king going to challenge the Yama king again? Very swiftly, the news spread to the experts under Zidi from the Violet Mountain, as well as the 9 emperors' immortal state, the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom, the Supreme Sword School, the Taihua Immortal Dynasty, and many other immortal kings. In an instant, countless experts in the city of ancient emperors all rushed towards the direction Qin Wenyan was in. Chapter 1492. Qin Wenyan has been waiting here. Although the city of ancient emperors was very vast, since the Yama king's name resounded throughout the city, his words would surely be transmitted out at an extremely fast speed. Unless the Yama king was in closed-door seclusion, he should be able to hear his words very quickly. In the city of ancient emperors, emperor's fate was akin to luck. Now that he came here again, his emperor's fate had to start anew. If he wanted to strengthen his emperor's fate as quickly as possible, it was very simple. He had to defeat those with the highest prestige in the city of ancient emperors, and he would instantly gain the respect of everyone here. This was one of the reasons why he called out to the Yama king. As more and more experts arrived, their gazes all landed on Qin Wenyan. Was this man the saber-sword immortal king? Telling the Yama king to crawl over and kneel before him to repent? Was he courting death? Bzz. A raging wind gusted by as 2 greater demons flew over. They floated in the air and stared at Qin Wenyan. These 2 demons were extremely outstanding. One of them was in the form of a golden rock while the other was in the form of a vermilion bird. The golden rock's silhouette flashed as it circled above Qin Wenyan's head. An expression of interest could be seen in its eyes. Little rascal, scram away. Don't let others recognize you. Qin Wenyan transmitted his voice to this fellow. So it turned out that these 2 greater demons were none other than Little Rascal and Purgatory. 1 human and 2 demons were connected by blood. They naturally knew each other. Little Rascal, who was in the form of a golden rock, continued circling in the air, squeaking. After that, it landed on Qin Wenyan's head and stretched out its claws, slapping Qin Wenyan's head twice. You dare to challenge the Yama king? Not bad. Do you believe this seat won't kill you? Qin Wenyan inclined his head and glanced at Little Rascal. This fellow even dared to tease him. You are quite gutsy, daring to threaten this king? Although Little Rascal's voice sounded more mature, it was still somewhat immature. Calling himself, this king, sounded somewhat comical, causing many to laugh in their hearts. What little demon was this? He was actually quite adorable. Your wings have hardened? Qin Wenyan transmitted his voice to Little Rascal. After that, he abruptly stretched his hand out and grabbed at the air. This Little Rascal actually dared to challenge him? Swoosh! A golden bolt of lightning arced through the air. Little Rascal instantly slipped away, causing Qin Wenyan's hand to grab onto empty air. Little Rascal's body shrunk back to its original size, turning back into a snow-white little demon. It was covered in fur and looked extremely adorable. Under the bewildered gazes of the crowd, Little Rascal actually leaped onto the shoulder of the female on the ancient peak. Sister Divine Fox, he bullied me. Qin Wenyan had an expression of astonishment on his face when he saw this scene. After which, he only saw the goddess-like maiden stretching out her fair hands and pulling Little Rascal into her embrace, gently caressing his skin as she coldly glanced at Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan was completely dumbfounded. Bastard! This Little Rascal was simply a demon-level character. It seemed like there were no beautiful women he couldn't handle, right? Including Princess Kitamura and this 9-tailed demon fox. They were simply two demon-level characters. Little Rascal straightened his head and had a complacent expression on his face as he stared at Qin Wenyin. Purgatory transformed into her human form, revealing a fiery figure. Her pure and innocent countenance exuded a seductive aura, causing many to involuntarily cast a few glances at her. These greater demons were all truly beautiful. Purgatory glanced at Qin Wenyin and also received the voice transmission from Qin Wenyin. She didn't say anything and simply moved to the side as she transmitted her voice. Big Brother Qin, the Yama King's strength stands at the peak of the city of ancient emperors. His combat prowess is extremely powerful. Do you have the confidence to challenge him? I don't know. Qin Wenyin replied with a smile. How did Little Rascal cultivate? How did he reach the peak stage of the Demon King realm? How long have you guys been in the city of ancient emperors? We've been here for many years. Little Rascal has always been taken care of by a senior heaven-devouring beast. Also, his talent is extremely terrifying and he has unique innate techniques. His cultivation speed is extremely fast, but he only broke through not too long ago. Purgatory gently spoke. Qin Wenyin nodded lightly. Back then, Little Rascal had already reached the mid-stage of the Immortal King realm. He didn't expect that this time around, Little Rascal's cultivation speed would be even faster, directly breaking through to the peak stage of the Immortal King realm. Purgatory was only at the mid-stage of the Immortal King realm. What's going on between him and that demon fox maiden? Qin Wenyin asked again. That maiden possesses the purest bloodline of the nine-tailed fox race. It's rumored that she is a descendant of a nine-tailed divine fox. Senior heaven-devouring beast has some friendship with the nine-tailed fox race and had once brought Little Rascal to the nine-tailed fox race as a guest. Hence, they are acquainted with each other. The moment Little Rascal met her, he immediately tried to suck up to her. Isn't it all because he found her beautiful? Purgatory spoke with disdain. She had been together with Little Rascal for many years and could be considered to have experienced how shameless Little Rascal was. Qin Wenyin sweated. He didn't intend to acknowledge Little Rascal anymore. His face was completely thrown away by him. The holy maiden of the Namhuang clan is here as well. Before this, we were together. Purgatory reminded. A raging wind gusted by as more and more experts arrived. And as expected, Qin Wenyin saw the holy maidens of the Namhuang clan arriving, including Namhuang Yunshi. She was dressed in red, resembling a phoenix robe, exuding a sense of nobility and holiness. Saber Sword Immortal King. Namhuang Yunshi smiled as she called out. Holy Maiden Namhuang Yunshi, how have you been? Qin Wenyin laughed. This Saber Sword Immortal King is acquainted with the holy maidens of the Namhuang clan? Many people had strange looks on their faces. You still dare to return? A cold voice rang out. A group of experts appeared. All of them were clad in yellow robes, exuding an air of nobility and unexcelled in the world. The person in the lead was none other than Huang Jiutian, who was heavily injured by Qin Wenyin back then. Qin Wenyin glanced at him as he laughed. A loser still dares to appear before me? Huang Jiutian's expression sank. The experts from the 9 Emperors' immortal state all released their auras. But you want to start a war? A holy maiden from the Namhuang clan glanced at him. Start a war? Qin Wenyin laughed as he glanced at the people from the 9 Emperors' immortal state. Just them? Are they even qualified? Impudent. An expert from the 9 Emperors' immortal state coldly spoke. Bizizi. Qin Wenyin glanced at his opponent as his eyes turned incomparably terrifying. His opponent was instantly immersed in it. With a thunderous roar, Emperor might gushed forth from him, shocking the experts from the 9 Emperors' immortal state. In just a short instant, a line of blood appeared on that person's forehead as he screamed in agony as he fell from the air. The experts from the 9 Emperors' immortal state were all shocked as they stared at Qin Wenyin. Saber Sword Immortal King. Huang Jiutian roared. His body soared up into the air as his battle intent towered up into the sky. I will count to 9. If you all still dare to appear before me, I will kill you all without mercy. Qin Wenyin calmly spoke. After that, he directly added, 9. Kill him. Fight. How could the experts from the 9 Emperors' immortal state endure such humiliation? All of them roared in rage. Huang Jiutian's body trembled as his might swept over everything. 8. Qin Wendian spoke again. The experts from the 9 Emperors' immortal state roared in rage. Huang Jiutian stared at the disdain in Qin Wendian's eyes as he thought back to the battle in the past. A hint of trepidation could be seen in the depths of his eyes. 7. Qin Wendian didn't bother to waste words with them and continued shouting. Should we fight or not? Someone stared at Huang Jiutian, who was in the air. Although Huang Jiutian's aura was extremely tyrannical, he still didn't step forward. During these 30 years, his improvement was extremely great. His combat prowess had transformed, and when he encountered the saber-sword immortal king again, he felt an impulse to wipe away his previous humiliation. He couldn't help but want to fight. However, he didn't expect the saber-sword immortal king to be even more arrogant than before. With just a glance, he killed the expert who spoke earlier. 6-5. Qin Wendian was still counting. Huang Jiutian felt an incomparable struggle in his heart. During these 30 years, his improvement was so great. But what about Qin Wendian? Could it be that he had stagnated? Earlier, Qin Wendian didn't even sense any law energy fluctuations from that single glance of his, and he already killed one of them. This was simply too terrifying. Also, this time around, he returned to fight the Yama King again. Since he dared to return and even called out to the Crown Prince, what level of strength did he reach? There was no need to doubt his strength at the peak stage of the Immortal King realm, or he wouldn't have returned. For Qin Wendian continued. Those experts from the 9 Emperors' immortal state who were shouting for war didn't move at all. The people in the surroundings all felt a surge of emotions in their hearts. Although the Yama King hasn't arrived yet, they didn't expect the foreplay to be so fascinating. The words of the experts from the 9 Emperors' immortal state were incomparably tyrannical, but the saber-sword immortal king was even more tyrannical. He was simply lawless, causing the experts from the 9 Emperors' immortal state to be so frightened that they didn't dare to move. The saber-sword immortal king stood there alone. It was like he was invincible against 10,000 enemies. The experts from the 9 Emperors' immortal state were all filled with trepidation. They didn't dare to fight. 3. Qin Wendian's tone turned heavy. His body slowly floated up as his eyes gleamed with sharpness, staring at Huang Jiutian. Huang Jiutian's heart pounded violently. He struggled incomparably as his face turned red. Let's go. Finally, he spoke as he turned and departed. The experts from the 9 Emperors' immortal state all felt extremely ashamed when they saw this scene. They only felt that they had no face left, but they all followed after Huang Jiutian and soared into the distance. Their speed was extremely fast, vanishing in the blink of an eye. They basically didn't have the face to stay behind. The hearts of everyone trembled as they stared at the silhouette of the saber-sword immortal king. At this instant, even for those who have never heard of the saber-sword immortal king's name before, they were all stunned. The experts from the 9 Emperors' immortal state and Huang Jiutian were actually frightened away by a single sentence? This simply toppled their line of thinking. Madness! The current city of ancient emperors is too crazy. Everyone silently mused. The people from the 9 Emperors' immortal state are truly gutless. Someone spoke. However, Qin Wendian acted as though nothing had happened. He floated there and swept his gaze over the crowd. If there's anyone else who wants to provoke us, feel free to act directly. There's no need to be polite. This seat will wait here for you. Just nice, before the Yama King arrives, I can exercise my hands and legs. The surroundings fell silent. The experts here exchanged mutual glances. Little Rascal's eyes were wide open as he stared in the direction of Qin Wendian. Hee hee. A sound of laughter rang out from his mouth. This fellow was so arrogant after transforming into the saber-sword immortal king. He was simply too violent. Luckily, he fled quickly earlier, or he would definitely be beaten up. Seems like he had to be more low-profile in the future. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.